conditions and cloudy skies is what's meeting us here at the 2026 Battenkill, the 21st edition, as we're bringing you a fantastic gravel race. 5 minutes out, it's going to be our pro men's start. My name's Frankie Andreu, sitting here at temperatures right now, looking at 46 degrees. You can see the rain and everything that's going on around us, behind us. One of these most famous gravel races, you know, this thing is 21st edition of the Battenkill race. And this year's race in memory of our former moto director, Dave Percy, who passed away last year. Of course, he was a big part of Battenkill and the community around here. Big thank you to Anthem Tours, who has trips to international cycling trips, Verge Sport, Odyssey, Energy Solutions, Hammer Nutrition, the Village of Cambridge is where we are at. We're here in Cambridge, New York. The Valley Hub Meeting Space, Cambridge Assisted Living, Artisanal Brewworks, which for our Grand Fondo riders, be able to get something to eat and drink, being part of that Grand Fondo crew. A little bit different than our USAC races, which are getting ready to be able to take place. A little bit earlier, we have our pro women that took off at 11 a.m. All the women combined together. Pro women 1, 2, 3, along with our women's category 3, 4, women's 40, 60 plus, and our junior girls 15 to 18. A little bit earlier on, we had our Fondo riders with the mid Battenkill, which tackled 45 miles. We had our mini Battenkill, which tackled 23 miles. And then we've had our USAC races with the 40, 50 plus coming in, the 60, 70 plus coming in, category 3, category 4, category 5. All of them getting their podium and being able to take their chance at being able to win some of that chocolate milk, greatest chocolate milk in the nation right here in Cambridge, New York here. 21st edition of Battenkill again. And again, it started back in 2005 and it went on until 2017, took a little bit of a break. And then Dieter Drake from Anthem Sports decided to be able to bring it back for the very first time in 2025. Our pro men, 106 miles. So we're going to be here for a while as they're out here tackling the course. On average for our 62 miles, which many of the riders have been doing, it's been taking them about 2.5 hours. Obviously, the wet conditions making them go around some of these dirty roads a little bit slower than what they normally would do in dry conditions. Pro men getting ready, 6,700 feet of climbing, so to say it's undulating, yes, that would not be an overstatement. They're going to have 3 feed zones as well out there at mile 18, 41, 67, and 89. And that's a whole different topic that I'll talk about a little bit later on about feeding and trying to be able to stay fueled on a cold and rainy day like it is. So they're going to have 1 mile neutral as they head out of town. They're going to do 2 laps of a local circuit and then head out and do 3 bigger laps before they head back in. And fingers crossed, video coverage of our pro men will be able to do a pretty good job as they're out there. So the Juniper Swamp Loop is one of the loops that they're doing, and then the Argyle Loop is one of their other loops. They're scheduled for 1:15 as we're counting down. We're 1 minute out. And my co-announcer, Bill Ellison, he's over there getting ready to be able to send them off. Cooler temperatures, 46 degrees at the start. And again, this race in memory of our former moto director, Dave Percy, who passed away last year. And of course, our thoughts and memories are with him and of course the entire family. He was a huge part of Battenkill. 2010 to 2012. That was about 3 years here where this was one of the major UCI events, a big road race event. Same start location, has not changed. The course out there has changed a little bit, but it's great to be back here at the location right here at the Railroad Park. And again, returning here after 11-year absence in 2025, the first time Dieter decided to be able to bring back Battenkill. We're going back to our moto as we got our wet riders out there. Going to be doing a little bit of double duty here, announcing to the crowd and trying to be able to talk to our live web stream that'll be taking place as well. As I'm talking about our pro men coming up on, we're under 1 minute out. 1 minute out for our start. Again, 1 mile neutral as the pro men are getting ready to be able to tackle 106 miles, 6,700 feet of climbing, and 3 feed zones. There's actually a caravan for our men as well, as they're going to be neutral services available along with their own team service, as they have wheels that are going to be available in the car, and of course bottles as well for the feeding. We didn't know it was going to be a rainy day, so that hydration is not going to be as important as it would be on a beautiful. Yesterday it was gorgeous here. 70 degrees, sunny skies, but that all changed. It's a full day of rain, non-stop. As you can see right now, the pro men underway, 1 mile in neutral.
I'm going to need your number. Guys, step to the side, step to the side. Good job, Jay.
many different teams coming here for being able to figure out. You don't know what the weather's ever going to be here. Again, the pro women are out on course. It's going to be a pro men that we're following right now. We got the team Ride with Rendell is here. Big Hit Racing, the CRCA Rockstar Games team. R&R New York City Racing as well. Team Veselka, and they got a good squad here. Good Guys Racing. Got Lance Abshire from Cheney Windows and Doors. And a couple like individuals that are all spread in with, again, going against teams of 6. So got to keep in mind, you know, obviously if you have a team of 6, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage of different riders being able to go with through. So some of these other riders are going to have to really pay attention on what move they want to be able to go with. And, of course, riding near the front to be able to stay out of trouble on very slippery, dirty, muddy conditions. All the other categories of riders that have come back have been covered in dirt and mud, and that's going to be no different once we get to our pro men. So next of our Fondo riders coming into the finish will be our Masters 60, excuse me, that'll be our USAC riders. All of our Fondo riders have pretty much made it in with the mini and the mid. The full Battenkill, they're still out there. So they're doing 62 miles, 12-1. They should be coming in probably at about 2 o'clock. So in about 45 more minutes, we'll have some more of our Fondo riders coming in. Before that, though, we are moments away of having our 60 and 70 plus riders making their way in as well. Still under neutral as they're heading out from Cambridge, New York. Again, original host city of the original Battenkill. And again, that started back in 2005. As our riders now, yellow line rule is in effect on some of these larger roads. On some of the more busy roads, they have the yellow line rule is in effect. But once they get to the smaller roads and they get a little bit more out in the, let's just call it the country, they're going to have full use of the road. It'll be a rolling enclosure, and they're going to do the best they can, obviously, to be able to make sure the roads are safe for the riders and that they're able to have a clear path towards racing towards the finish. It's going to be challenging identifying many of the riders, and again, everybody with rain jackets on. Some of them being brave, going in shorts as well. Again, temperatures 45 degrees. Some are going to have knee warmers and leg warmers. Other ones are going to, the rain jackets. But with the rain jackets on there, it's obviously covering up their numbers. And so that's going to be difficult identifying them with the race numbers covered.
These numbers for there's 2 guys with jackets on in front of rider 213.
Riding for 13 thrills, Mike Serpa.
What is this car doing?
And on the top step, your champion riding for QCW, presented by Games Calvin Hoops. Well done, gentlemen. Hands in the air, gentlemen, your 40-plus podium.
Looking at it, how it was strung out across the road. Now a little bit more single file, a little bit of tempo more than attacking, but I believe 1 mile neutral is definitely gone. We've hit kilometer 0, and we have things underway. 106 miles here in Battenkill. It's the pro men that we're taking a look at right now as they're trying to be able to survive this rain. It's a steady rain. It is definitely coming down, and when you have a race like this, you're starting in the rain, you're going to get wet, and there's pretty much nothing you can do to be able to stay dry. There's a couple tricks. Maybe you're trying to put baggies on your feet, sandwich baggies on your feet to try to keep your socks dry in the shoes. But eventually, when it's this wet, the water's just going to seep in there. There's really nothing waterproof that you can do to be able to keep your feet dry, which is usually a big concern for many of the riders that are out there. The wetter your shoes get, they kind of get stretched out. Your foot moves around a little bit more in there. And even if you're wearing neoprene to be able to keep that water off, your foot ends up sweating inside of that boot, especially after 4 or 5 hours, and your foot ends up getting all wet anyways inside that neoprene booty. So either way, it's best just to be able to accept the fate of wet feet and be able to just go out there and ride and see what you can do. A lot of times when I used to race, again, I'm Frankie Andreu here, giving you a little bit of live coverage here. I would just put a pair of socks on top of my shoes. Not so much to be able for the waterproof effect, but I'd put the socks over my shoes just to be able to keep the shoes a little bit cleaner for after the race, to make it easier to be able to clean up those shoes to be able to look good for the next training day or race day. So really it was just a little bit out of convenience. I'd take the socks off and just throw those away, but again, it kept like a lot of that grit and kept the shoes a little bit cleaner to make it easier to be able to pack up, to be able to go home, and make it a little bit easier for them to be clean and dry for the next training day or race day. Riders coming in, they had looked at the 4 prizes here. It's not like somebody showed up here to Battenkill without a rain jacket, as we get our riders now out on course. GnarlyMonkey.com bringing you the live images here. Putting in a ton of work to be able to put all of this together, to be able to at least bring some images. Question, how long will it last? Not really sure, but so far so good, as they're just heading outside a town as a group all together right now. So certain riders, it seems like from some of these teams, are either getting told to be able to just ride on the front and keep a little bit of a tempo. And, maybe that's not a bad thing, because you can kind of get the day over with a little bit earlier. It's chilly. And again, when you're just, you're trying to be able to balance of staying warm, trying to be able to stay dry, which is not going to happen. So being wet and just cruising along, your body temperature will start to drop, and you'll end up getting a little bit cooler than you want to. And it's hard to be able to kind of regenerate that heat to be able to stay warm. So for many of these riders, they want to ride a tempo. They want to be able to ride at a certain pace to be able to generate a little bit of heat, and also, again, be able to get to the finish line a little bit quicker. A good-sized group, I think it's about 70 riders big, and again, a combination of different teams all coming together.
Sorry.
Last year's winner, Ben Oliver, not here. Ben Oliver is actually one of those riders that won here last year and then went on and turned pro for that brand new American cycling team, Modern Adventure. Former pro mountain biker, a very good mountain biker. Ben Oliver, for a couple of years, was racing in the U.S., doing a ton of criteriums and doing gravel races, and coming out here to Battenkill, and he's your 2025 defending champion. You're defending your current national cyclocross champion, Andrew Strohmeyer. He was second here. It was a 2-up sprint. Ben Oliver, he's a very good sprinter, fast. Ended up beating Andrew Strohmeyer to the finish line. So Ben Oliver in 2025 winning, Andrew Strohmeyer in second, and then it was Maxime Richard in third, and Nick Tabaris in fourth, along with Mark Laffrey and then Keegan Hornblow. That was your top, what do I got there? About 6 riders there. Laffrey, looking at the start list a couple days ago, Laffrey is the only one that I saw that was returning. Ben Oliver was not on the list. Strohmeyer was not on the list. Maxime Richard, Nick Tabaris, and Keegan Hornblow all were not on. Again, that was checking up 2 days ago, not checking today, as Mark Laffrey was on the list. I'm not even positive Mark Laffrey is here, but he was on that start list, so I'm assuming he's out there. 2025 for our pro women, and again, they started a little bit earlier, a couple hours ago. They started at 11 a.m. Catherine Rush was your 2025 champion. Galen Bollard was second. It was Dana Scott in third. Then they went to Liliana O'Donnell, Emily Dreiger, and then Lizzie Gonzalez. And that wrapped up your top 6 in our pro women. A couple days ago as well, and I should be updated on my data. I'm going to go check out my pro women, because on the start list a couple days ago, Megan Garnier was on there. And I was surprised to be able to see her name on that list. And so she is. Megan Garnier wearing number 95. We're going to see what she does a little bit later on. She's a 3-time U.S. Pro Road Race champion. Phenomenal rider. She's won a stage of the Women's Giro. She's an overall World Cup winner as well. Megan Garnier getting back into racing. And so she's here at Battenkill. I'm sure she didn't. Granted, when you're, if you've been a professional for that long and that successful, when you come to a race like this and it's this nasty and dirty, a hard decision to make. You want to be able to go out here and try to compete against the elements, and I think Megan Garnier took the start, so it'll be interesting to see how she does once we get to the finish line. Again, they started at 11. Should take them about 2.5 to 3 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes, this is called. So they started at 11. Should see them coming in about 2:45. So maybe another hour for our pro women. So once again, these are images of our pro men that are underway. Again, for our pro men, about 75 riders on the start line. Different teams and different individuals all making their way through. Some of them wearing gloves. It's because, again, 45 degrees, rain, it's a little bit cooler. That's going to make it a little bit harder, and obviously they're not going to be stopping at the feed zone. The feed zones normally are out there, and there is neutral service for some of the riders that may not have a car. But even in the officials' cars, they decided they're going to have water in there for anybody that decides to need it. But if you're wearing gloves, like this gentleman right here going off the front, very hard to be able to get food out of your pockets. The glove sticks. You got to try to go underneath the rain jacket, but inside the pockets. And so sometimes it can be hard to be able to get some kind of gels or goos to be able to give you a little bit of fueling to be able to get through. So that's something these riders definitely going to have to keep in mind. 106 miles, that's not something you're just going to skate through on a cold and rainy day. So nutrition is going to be super important, especially with all of the new evidence that has come out with the amount of carbs, generally about 150 grams of carbs per hour. That's going to be a lot of digging into your pockets to be able to get a lot of that food out to be able to eat. So, but one rider now separating themselves, trying to be able to go up the road, and the main field spread out all across behind them. Again, that yellow line rule in effect. Now, that's going to be no problem for our race leader. He's looking behind him, wants a little bit of help. If you don't want to be out there by yourself, that's not the ideal situation. So it's going to be August Schamet. Again, I don't really see Andrew Fomer. Got Zachary Racine and Michael Reidenbach. Reidenbach's a strong rider on that Total Civil Construction team. Benjamin Wright, and then Otto Wilbeschauser. So there's good 6 riders on that Total Civil cycling team. So the one rider off in the front is going to have a little bit of help from his teammates sitting in the back, sitting on, not helping with any of that chase. But again, it's a long day on your own. Now a group of 5 will have a good chance at staying away, especially once they get to maybe that first dirt section, because the chase group can only go so fast. It limits how fast the chase group can go around the turns and on the dirt sections. So it kind of evens things out when you have inclement weather, and that's exactly what we have right now. Coming up to one of those famous covered bridges, that's going to be always a little bit tricky because of the way the seams go with the wood planks, so they got to be careful with that as well. Hammer's starting to drop a little bit. Different riders deciding to be able to push the piece, testing their legs, but more so testing other riders' legs. First chance to be able to get on some rougher pavement. They turned off the busier roads where, again, that yellow line rule in effect. Now they have a rolling enclosure, so full use of the roads. And, again, not only trying to be able to see how everybody is feeling individually, but trying to be able to see who's going to be able to react. Obviously, they would love to have a separation. You don't want to battle 75 riders if you don't have to. If you can get it down to like 10 riders, at least for the beginning of this, and maybe whittle it down to like 5 or 6 a little bit later on, that's something that you want to be able to think about. But right now, one rider up the road, and with the speed that the main field is going in, they're going to have a good chance of bringing back that Total Civil Construction rider that was off the front. A lot of rain over the last few months here. That's why everything is so green. It's hard to be able to see on our on our TV screen is because it's got the lens that is covered with the raindrops, but very green all the way around. Driving in, super beautiful. Yesterday, temperatures are 70 degrees, sunny, a gorgeous day. It would have been a perfect day for a bike race, whereas compared to today, kind of a nightmare of a day for a bike race. But all the volunteers from Battenkill and Dieter Drake doing a fantastic job of putting this ride together, this race together, Grand Fondo riders and USAC riders. There's 6 different courses for different amateurs and the elite racers.
There we go. Hang on.
Cleaning off the lenses, trying to be like, I'm Frankie Andreu. Next to me is Bill Ellison, as we're covering here in Battenkill. You mentioned you've raced Battenkill before, and obviously you were here with me last year with the rain. I can't believe it's raining again this year. It's like, who the heck? What's your problem? Did you bring this with you?
You would think I did. I mean, the only time rather that I raced this was 2009, and it's carbon copy weather, right? Just cold, wet. It just adds to the challenge out there. It's enough that you've got 20% dirt roads up here, but then you add this in, and those roads get so soft and goopy and.
They say May showers bring flowers.
Yeah,
May showers brings Battenkill.
Brings Battenkill, yeah. It's kind of a guarantee at this point. 20 years, it's probably rained for over half of those 20 years.
On a weather day like this, sometimes it's very easy. You can feel good for 2.5 hours, and then all of a sudden just completely collapse because of the change in weather conditions of something that you're not used to. Nobody trains all day in weather.
No.
Nobody goes out and does 100 miles when it's 45 degrees and raining. And so that's something that a lot of these guys aren't used to.
Yeah, they're definitely not used to it. I mean, everyone will go out for an hour or two in the rain and kind of get it done. 'Cause at some point or another during the season, you just have no choice, right? If you want to keep training, especially at this time of the year in this part of the country in the Northeast. But yeah, to do, what are we doing? 175 kilometers or something today for these guys? That's a long, long day out there. So nobody's really used to it. So it makes the clothing choices a little challenging, and probably the biggest challenge is going to be the fueling. Riders are going to have to make sure they're just taking in a lot of carbs, a lot of calories over the course of the duration of the race, especially early in the race, to not get behind the 8 ball, because if anything that's going to cause the body to shut down a little bit, it's going to be a lack of energy, and just you're going to hit the wall out there in these cold temperatures.
Nice to see good guys racing, kind of talking with each other. Those in the black jersey, trying to be able to, send riders up the road, making sure they have somebody in a group or somebody riding tempo. So a lot of communication is going to be necessary on a day like today, especially once you start hitting some of these nasty sections and groups are going to split up. You're going to have, guys going forward, guys going back, and that's what's happening right now. The good guys in the back are trying to be able to figure out how many guys are up there and how many riders do we have in there. Sometimes in a morning meeting, when you're on a team, hey, we're good with 1 and 3. We're good with 1 rider and 4. We're not good with 1 and 5 or 1 and 6. So they need to be able to figure out, like, there's 6 guys up there. How many of our riders do we have up there? It's not only good guys, it's for the other teams as well. As you can see, certain riders on the front deciding to be able to keep the hammer down, as they say. And again, rain very, very steady here in Cambridge.
Yeah, it's one of those races where you kind of wonder if the race is going to happen a little more at the back, meaning it's just going to be a little bit of a race of attrition throughout the day, because I think the experienced riders know that if they go too hard too early, it's likely going to come back to get them. I mean, we're talking about this distance in the rain, but really this distance in general, there's not a lot of 100-plus mile road races left in the U.S. That's why everyone kind of flocks to Battenkill, and it's why it's become widely known as the queen of the classics here in the northeast part of the U.S., because there's just so few road races of this length available anymore. So, it tends to take a different style of training and preparation to be ready for. And when you're not used to doing that, that's going to play certainly into the tactics and so on.
Riders out here covering a lot of different area. Running through much of southern Washington County, crossing covered bridges, which we saw a little bit earlier. Amazing views. You can see some of that, even though despite the rain and the cloud cover.
Here at Battenkill, it's like a saw blade, right? On the profile, it's just up and down the entire time. So there's very little recovery, and some of that again is on dirt or gravel road. So it's very challenging. And the first climb of the day is Juniper Road, and that one comes pretty early on in this circuit. I think it comes maybe 11 or 12 miles in, and without question, that's going to be probably one of the first selection points of some of these early attacks, or riders just trying to get ahead of the game for Juniper.
Yeah, team Veselka. I think that was Arnett Caladini, number 47, that we're seeing just off the front there.
That's one of the Veselka is one of the many CRCA teams out of New York City. It's one of the sub teams, and they've brought their team director Etsu was telling me I think there's 19 riders in total across all the different categories on offer here today at Battenkill. I know they've got a pretty strong contingent here in our Pro 1-2 men's races. Again, looks to be one of the good guys maybe up in this move. So looks like 3 riders now just trying to get themselves a little clear. You can tell that grade relatively steep as riders in the saddle, out of the saddle, trying to get traction out there, trying to get a little bit of a gap as one rider trying to make their way across. And to your point earlier, in all these team meetings, it's all about what strengths you've got on your team and how you feel you can play those and how you want to try and stack the front end of the race. So I think every team needs to have some representation once you get 4, 5, or 6 riders off the front, because then the odds of bringing that back become pretty small.
Yeah, if it's a group of 5 or 6, then it's going to be hard to be able to bring back. And then plus, if the bigger teams each have a rider up there, who's left to be able to chase? Because if you're by yourself, you're not going to be up there trying to be able to chase down a group of 5, especially when you're going to have a huge group of Veselka guys and good guys racing and all these guys sitting on your wheel. That's going to be really discouraging. So, on a race day like today with the weather, you got to, more so than sitting in and waiting and being patient, you got to be on your toes. You got to watch out for that first 15, 20 miles. Try to be able to go with everything. Try to be able to make sure you're in the move, because the move, once it goes, it's gonna go. I don't think this is going to be something where at mile 60 you're going to see the group coming back. Things are just going to split up, and the more it splits up, nobody's going to want to be able to chase as we continue to be able to welcome back many of our 60 and 70s.
Looks like one rider trying to get a little bit clear, so now we're on the descent of whatever that first climb was. Looking back, one rider just angling off the front of that selection. It looked like it might have been 5, 6 riders in total as they got over the top of that first climb. A lot of great narrow backcountry roads up here. If you've not been to this area, this southern Washington County, yeah, probably one of the best areas around that I've seen to ride a bike. There's so many great roads and so quiet. Residents very, very accommodating of all the cyclists up in this area, so just really makes it a wonderful place to have a race.
Yeah, huge farming area around this area. Biggest thing you got to watch out for are tractors. Otherwise, there's not a lot of vehicles. And then yesterday they were talking about how there's a big influx of Amish that have started to be able to come into this area. So watching out for the horse-drawn buggies, which is kind of interesting. But it's a gorgeous area to be able to ride. And the thing is, it's not flat. You get the training that you want with those undulating climbs, and you can make it as hard as you want or as easy as you want. But it's a great spot to be able to come, especially summertime. Right now, it's a little bit cooler, right, and maybe not the best temperatures, a little wet. I mean, this isn't someplace you're coming to have training camp. No. This is someplace you're coming to be able to enjoy yourself, to be able to do a century ride or something during the middle of the year, kind of to be able to treat yourself.
Well, that's part of the reason that Dieter Drake and his crew at Anthem Sports keep this race in this springtime, because they want that Queen of the Classics moniker. They want to kind of model it after some of the stuff they see over in Europe. Well, lo and behold, that's what they're getting. Lots of rain. We got some wind out there on the course, and the temperature's pretty chilly today. The low 50s for a high. Looks like maybe everything kind of coming all back together there. That early breakaway attempt over that first climb, not really getting a whole lot of traction. That's all right. Plenty of time to try again. Our men now about 30 minutes in to their race, and as we alluded to, it's about 105, 108 miles. So they got plenty of time to try another attack out there.
Yeah, well, we saw earlier on Total Silver Construction, one of the first ones to be able to attack. After that, we saw some good guys racing, and Valeska also trying to attack. So different teams that have multiple riders, but look how strung out it is.
Yeah.
That becomes a little bit dangerous. And so, the down, as hard as the uphills are, the downhills can actually be the selection as well. Just because of the pace you got to be able to get around some of these turns. You have such an advantage when you're in the front, being able to pick your own line, being able to recover a little bit sooner than everybody else. So it's a big advantage of when you're riding on the front of a group. Because in the back right now, These guys have, their head is down. They're putting out power, trying to be able to stay connected with the wheel in front of them, and they're sitting 50 guys back. And so, you can only do that so many times. You're gonna run out of matches in your match box until you're finally gonna be able to crack and go straight off the back.
Yeah, just not being able to see back there, all that spray, all the dirt and the water spray coming up under your glasses, or if you've chosen not to wear glasses, kind of coming up in your eyes, and that makes it really challenging. And your first instinct is just to drift off the wheel or drift to the side of the wheel a little bit. And to your point, that's how these gaps are going to open really, really quickly on some of those sections. So those experienced riders, they know that the downhills are every bit as critical as the uphills, and a great point to just kind of naturally, not even attack, but a selection can naturally occur out there.
Riders out on course waiting to be able to, getting into the mountains, as they say, so it becomes a little bit more difficult to be able to have the stream. Gnarly Monkey doing a fantastic job in setting all of this up. A little bit last minute. Dieter didn't decide to be able to do a live web stream until like 2 weeks ago, and so there's been a lot of scrambling to be able to put this all together. Again, Pro Women took off at about 11 a.m. I figure they're going to be coming in at about 1:30, 1:45, which is pretty much now. Yeah. So, yeah, I think within the next 10 minutes, we should have our leaders of our Pro Women starting to be able to come in.
Yeah, we had a pretty good group, a small group, but a pretty stacked group of Pro Women. The Comp Edge bringing a couple of their top riders. The young sisters, the twins, Abby and Lily Cole, doing the Pro 1-2 race. They're doing 100 kilometers out there, and they're been national champions on the cyclocross bike, so they're riders that are probably not too unhappy.
They'll be comfortable with this. Yeah.
Today, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. I think Aubrey Drummond, possibly, another one of the Comp Edge riders.
Saw her name on the list.
Yeah,
and
she's had a great season.
The other one that was on the list, maybe I don't know if you recognized her at the start, is Megan Garnier.
I did see Megan on the list. Phenomenal to have a rider of Megan's caliber. 3-time U.S. Road National Champion. She's won some of the biggest races in Europe. She won the women's Giro.
I thought she won a stage of the Giro.
I thought she won overall.
She could have won the whole thing.
Yeah.
She was the overall World Cup winner 1 year as well. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So Megan retired back at the end of 2019.
Yeah, I guess that's true. To be able to say she's a former pro, she's doing this for fun.
Yeah. So she lives up in this neck of the woods somewhere here in upstate New York, and she's actually took on a role this year as mentor for the CCB Levine Law Group women's program. Unfortunately, they're not here. They're over in Europe right now.
Swinging wide and keeping the momentum. That's what this is about right now. One rider going off the front by himself, going solo. Not sure what that car behind. It looks like it's got, I would say it's a police vehicle. Maybe it's our lead police vehicle. Maybe got caught behind trying to be able to pull over one of those vehicles that was coming towards the riders. And, of course, law enforcement officials doing a fantastic job of keeping this race as safe as possible for many of the riders. Trying to be able to stay to the right-hand side of the road. One rider going solo. It's a nice move. He's just keeping the momentum. It looks like it's almost like a gradual downhill. And again, the TV can kind of be a little bit deceptive of being able to watch on screen, but you can see it's just rolling up and down all day long. They got the 4 different feed zones they're going to be able to take advantage of. 6,700 feet of climbing, and that's the biggest gap we've seen of anybody that we've had from the early attacks right now. Field is trying to decide on what they want to be able to do. I'm not even sure which rider this is in the front, but whatever team it is, somebody's going to be getting a free ride in the back.
Eric, if you're around, join us over here by the podium.
All right, getting a little bit better view here. He's got a Factor bike. I have no idea what team that is. Might be Total Civil Construction only because of the orange. Otherwise, not really sure
You get that last number that went by?
what that rider is going to be. But that is a decent size gap. I'm going to go with almost like maybe about 20, 25 second gap as waiting for the main field to come by. And again, one rider now going solo. not going to be able to get any help. I love having the little rear fender help try to keep that chamois a little bit dry, keeping the shorts dry. That's a smart move on a rain day like that. As he's just turning the pedals off, focused on what's going on. You can see the temperature, like the temperature. He's got like the over the ears, a little bit of a headband, trying to be able to keep a little bit warmer. And that's definitely the rain jacket flapping in the wind right now as he tucks in, trying to be able to get as aero as possible on every little downhill.
All right, up next in your category 5 of podium here. In third place, Eric Engstrom. In second place, Hayden Tergeson. And on the top set, running for CRCA Foundation, Walter Welch. Here come the medals, here comes the milk. That's why everybody comes to
Podium taking place right now in the middle of our field is our Category 5 riders and Masters Men 60 plus and 70 plus. Trying to be able to get the great chocolate milk that's available here at Battenkill and the finishing medals as well. As top 3 being awarded their prizes. Pro men are a long ways from that as our one rider, solo rider. I wish I had a number or a name, and I do not. I don't even know how I'd be able to figure that out. As many of the riders that have come across the line in our earlier categories covered in rain jackets and honestly covered in a lot of dirt, a lot of mud. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's flying up from the roads. As Battenkill, you know, it's a road race, but it's not all on cement. There's definitely some long sections of dirt roads and that these riders are going to have to be able to tackle. It's kind of an 80-20, you know, about 25% on the dirt roads and then rest of it coming on the cement. And right now, we got a solo rider going away with about a 25-second gap. Haven't really seen any pictures of the main field recently to see where that other rider or where the rest of the field is. For our pro women, we're coming up on 3 hours of racing time, waiting for them to be able to come in. They all started at 11 a.m., and again, right now, just passing that 3-hour mark for the pro women. Pro men started at 1:15, so they've only been out there for a little bit as we're 45 minutes of racing in. So not only a problem of trying to be able to see one rain jacket, he's got 2 rain jackets on. He's going to hand that over to one of them, and I have no idea. Now, if my motorcycle people were smart, they'd like, hey, what's your number? But double jacket, double warmth, because of that big effort that he's doing, riding hard, he's going to be sitting up there, you know, trying to be able to generate a little bit more heat than what's going on in the back of the group. Some riders sitting in definitely could be feeling a little bit cold, and that sometimes can backfire on you. You're sitting in and you're staying rested, but you're getting colder and colder, and then your body never fires up again. Gap must be relatively big because he got a car behind our lead rider, and hopefully they have wheels in there, part of our neutral support. Going to have motorcycles available, and we have vehicles available for our neutral support. But with those 2 vehicles in there, you know it's got to be over 30 seconds, probably over 45 seconds. So one rider on the hammer, trying to be able to put some distance between him and the 74 other riders. A total of 75 riders on the line. One rider going up the road solo. All right, we're getting reports that our pro women are 1 mile out. 1 mile out. All right, that's our finish. So they're 1 mile out for our pro women. We're gonna keep it right here and be able to get an idea of who that is. Gonna be able to try to be able to see. I don't know if it's is it a group together? 7 riders. So a group of 7 riders have separated themselves, and we're gonna write down those numbers and try to be able to figure out who they are once they come in. For our pro women, again, they're over 3 hours of racing time right now. Again, battling this cooler temperatures and the rain. Got Cycle Racing, Abacus Data. Got a big group with them. They got about 8 riders in this. Competitive Edge Racing also is in this race. Bike Red Share Coffee, Signature Cycles, CRCAWO. Now remember, though, also, is that with our pro women that started, they also had the other categories that are going to be coming across our line. It could be a women's category 3-4, Masters women 40 to 60. So we have no idea who's going to be in that first group of 7. It could be any one of those categories.
A group of 7, the one thing that certainly is going to tell us that there's multiple riders from the same team out there in the group, whether it's going to be some of the Comp Edge or Bike Red Share Coffee or the Canadian squad, Cycle Racing, Abacus Data. Here comes our car.
There's our 7 coming around that turn right now, out of the saddle immediately. They know they got to keep the momentum. One rider was out of the saddle and then ended up having to sit down, trying to be able to come back, and it's going to come down to a bike throw. Competitive Edge going to be able to hold him up from Trek, picking up that first place.
Aubrey Drummond from Comp Edge getting the win there. So great sprint by Drummond right down the middle of the road to take that one on the line.
And unofficially, Megan Garnier is going to be in 3rd with that sprint. And I couldn't get the number because it was folded up for the rider that was in 2nd position there. But you saw that sprint coming down the road. A couple riders' legs giving out right at the end. That 62 miles that our pro women did. And again, there's going to be a lot of different categories that are mixed in with the pro women as more of our riders come in across the line. And neither of them have numbers on as well.
Yeah, tough day for picking out numbers up here. Understandable. All the riders, obviously, they're, especially in the pro women's category, they've done this a time or two. They know how to pin those numbers on appropriately. But just the conditions with the mud, the rain out there, just and the rain jackets, of course, making things a little bit challenging to pick things out. But what we do know, Comp Edge Racing's Aubrey Drummond taking a decisive win in there. We know Megan Garnier in 3rd. We'll try and identify that 2nd place finisher as soon as we can get that information.
The different category of numbers. Our pro women 91 to 109, that was their numbers, and then 480 to like 500 is going to be our women's category 3-4, and then Masters have different numbers, the junior girls have different numbers, so a lot to be able to keep track of. Pro men, it's gonna be easy. It's 1 through 89.
Yeah,
simple.
Like that,
we'll be able to figure that out right away once they start to be able to come in, but a long ways from that.
Hours
As they're going to be able to battle it out there as different riders come in. That's one of our Fondo riders coming in. He has a plate on the front of his. He'll be able to get the benefit of the Fondo, you get a free beer.
Man,
free beer. What's the food that they get? Do you know what they get with the food?
I think they get their choice of maybe the pulled pork. We've got some great pizzas over there, so I think they maybe get a choice of that. But you had me at beer, right? Free beer. It's good enough for me. And milk, chocolate milk.
Big, and those things are. It's not like the little tiny chocolate milks. It's big glass bottles of chocolate milk.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Battenkill, my word, it's worth the trip just for the Battenkill Valley milk chocolate.
We should go get one.
I don't disagree with
I got a cup here.
Yeah, right.
I got a water bottle here, empty water bottle. I could pour the chocolate milk in the water bottle and drink that up. Number 93, that's one of our pro women. As that's going to be Morse, Alexandra Morse from Signature Cycles that just came in.
Another one of our New York City CRCA squads. Obviously, presentation from that crew.
Chilly conditions, normally throughout the day the temperature gets warmer, but that's not happening. Temperature's actually getting cooler as that rain is starting to be able to soak in. A lot of different riders coming in here.
Another group of 4 or 5.
Oh, you know what this is? This is a combination of our full Battenkill riders that took off earlier today.
Right, they went off around
11:10.
11:10, yeah.
Exactly. They went off at 11:10, and so we have our full Battenkill. The riders doing 62 miles making their way in. So mixed in with some of our women, different categories, our full Battenkill riders have made it around as well as they be able to come in.
It's always interesting to watch the clothing choices out here, and I was talking with Bill Humphreys, an old-time bike racer from the 70s and 80s, who's here with a tent promoting his most recent book. And he raced way back in the day, and he kind of jokingly said a lot of these riders aren't familiar with putting liniment on the legs, some kind of heat cream on the legs to keep them.
Oh, like hot cream.
Yeah, like a hot cream.
Yeah, I know what you're. Okay.
There's so many riders out there with leg warmers, and I think some of the inexperienced riders don't understand yet that when those leg warmers get soaked, it just kind of is going to keep you a little bit cold out there.
It's the same as not having anything, right? Or
Right.
worse, actually.
It becomes worse because now you've just got this cold fabric glued to your skin,
And if it happened to dry off, which it's not gonna, but if it dried off at all, those leg warmers are still soaking wet.
Right.
And you got to remember, every time you're going down a hill, that wind is hitting that cold, wet leg warmers on you. It's just making your legs colder. And so, I wonder what back in the day, icy hot. That was
right.
something. And there was I don't remember the name of the. So the funny story is back in the day, Giro d'Italia. I rode it one year. Rode it with John Tomac.
Johnny.
John Tomac, crazy day like this, 46 degrees, cold and wet. He took this hot stuff, spread it all over his legs, Started off riding. After 2 hours, he was in heaven, it was great. But then it cleared up. The sun came out. Temperature went up to like 80. His legs turned beet red. Beet red. He was in tears because the hot stuff was like pepper on his legs. Team car driving had to pull over to one of the convenience stores, buy a gallon of milk. Take the gallon of milk and soak the one of our team hats in, and then Johnny was using the milk to be able to wipe off all of the hot stuff that was all over his legs. At the end of the day, his legs were burned. I mean, his legs were like burned from the pepper, the sun, whatever it was.
Well, then you get in the shower, right, and the water makes it even worse.
It completely backfired on him.
It was a good effort.
It was a good effort, and he, like Tomac doesn't do anything like minimal.
No,
so
it's full gas.
It was full gas. It was like quarter thick all over his entire legs.
I can picture the.
When I use it, I put it on my kneecaps, and that would be about it.
A little light.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and so. He was kind of the opposite, but that on a day like today, you look at the forecast, you could put a little bit more than just on your kneecaps and be able to use that hot liniment. But I wonder what's the product that they use nowadays? I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there's several companies that make embrocation is what it's called these days. But yeah, a lot of companies out there, but I'm not necessarily familiar with some of the more popular ones, but I have to imagine anybody with bare legs today has a little bit of that on there. And remember, you put Vaseline over the top to keep the water from kind of make this horrible greasy mess on your legs. Putting some Vaseline over the top to try and repel the water and keep the heat.
Well, today would be a day to be able to try to and do that. Cyclocross. Is that common that they would put a liniment on their legs for cross races? Because normally, earlier, so you have these early races, but let's say the normal October, November, December cross races. Is that something that's common that cross racers do?
Yeah, absolutely. Riders will still put some of that heat cream, that liniment on their legs to stay warm. You see cross races if it's dry out, people are going to ride bare leg down to 35 degrees in a cross race because it's just a little bit more efficient. It's easier to maneuver on and off the bike and that kind of stuff that's necessary with cross.
Yeah, you're not getting your tights caught on the tip of the saddle and you can't get back on the bike.
Yeah. You've seen that happen in the beginner categories, but hopefully that's a one and done lesson for those folks.
Yeah, there's a nice shot of our one of our mini pace cars and that are out here patrolling, keeping that rolling enclosure. They talked about that a lot yesterday, about the rolling enclosure on the narrow roads, and that's so the riders in the back have full use of the road for chasing, and of course our breakaway rider full use of the road as well to try to be able to keep as much momentum as possible and trying to be able to break away. They still have a lot of racing still to go, as right now I'm not even sure. We got our moto like stuck in the middle. I'm not sure where the group is behind. I'm not sure where our solo rider is in the front or how big the gap is.
Yeah, if you're that solo rider, you've got the car behind you, so you know instinctively the gap's got to be a bare minimum of a minute to have the car fill that gap. How hard do you go, right? You're an hour and 10 minutes into the race. You've got probably another 3.5 to odd hours to go. How hard do you go? How much do you pace yourself up there? Because one rider, look, it's probably not going to hold off the entire field, right? So inevitably, you're either going to get caught or some riders are going to come across to you. So what do you do with your effort out there? You're not going to go full stick.
80%. I think riding. It depends. I'm not even saying he went 100% to be able to establish the break. I think he just ended up getting into the break because who's going to attack 100% 10 miles into a 106-mile race? So 80%. So now you're just riding along at 75, 80%. Your training pace of what you've done a million times at home. The difference is you're going a little bit faster. It's a little bit colder, a little bit more rainy. And it's up to the field. The field is going to decide if they're going to be able to chase you down or not. But as the race goes on, obviously the front rider is going to fatigue a bit, but also the rear is going to split up. You're going to have groups of 5, groups of 6, and what's going to end up happening is you're going to have all captains, and nobody's going to want to be able to chase. There's no bull workers left, and that's going to be an advantage for the one rider off the front. Once you get to the final 20 miles, that's when you start going about 90, 95%, trying to be able to dig in and try to be able to make it into the finish line. Really, that's going to come down to just how much you've eaten and how much nutrition you still have in your body and your fitness. And that's kind of the game. That's what makes bike racing so exciting. Is like we're not sure how this is going to play out. Early season also, we're up in the Northeast. People have been dying to be able to ride outside. They haven't been riding outside that often. They're riding on the indoor. Maybe they're getting out once in a while. And so your body, you're not as efficient as August when you can go out and ride 3 hours and you don't even have to eat because your body is develop that energy efficiency to be able to get through. Same thing with a 100-mile race. But now, early season, all bets are off. You have no idea how your body's going to react to a situation like this. And that's why these feed zones in your team car, hydration, nutrition is going to be so important on a race here in Battenkill.
Yeah, we've got 4 different feed zones scattered around the course for our Pro 1-2 men. And as you alluded to, we've got the caravan out there as well. So some of the riders with a large team with a lot of numbers, they've got a car in that caravan. So kind of no excuses, quite honestly, for becoming dehydrated or running out of food or fuel. Can always have the opportunity to get some on hand. And, yeah, that's going to be a critical component here. To your point, if these guys have been riding indoors primarily, you're doing maybe 2 hours indoors, so you barely need to drink or eat for those kind of efforts on the indoor trainer. But out here now for the better part of 5 hours, and the cold temperatures, right? You've got to keep that body heat up, and so you're kind of it's like double duty, feeding the gas tank, if you will, by shoving carbohydrates and sugar down your throat.
Riders right now on the Juniper Swamp Loop. They're doing 3 laps of the Juniper Swamp Loop, and they've done. They're on their 2nd lap, and so they still have 1 more lap of the Juniper Swamp. So this is something that they're going to be familiar with. In other words, after you do like 1 lap, you do 2 laps. Where the hard climb is, where the tricky descent is, where the careful corners are. And then they're going to head out and do 1 big lap of the Argyle Loop. And so that's what's taking place right now with our pro men that are out on course.
So we're getting our updated results for our pro women. So Galen Bollard, another Comp Edge rider, she's the one who picked up that silver medal. So a great day for Comp Edge Racing, taking the win with Aubrey Drummond, her teammate Galen Bollard, coming in with the silver medal, and Megan Garnier, the former professional multi-time U.S. National Road Race Champion, picking up a bronze medal today out of that group. So great job, and coming in 5th and 6th in that group, I have to point out the twins, Lily and Abby Cole, 15 years old, I believe.
Very impressive for sure.
Wonderful.
What are you guys going to do, pro women? Get that podium?
Yeah, I think they would appreciate that. Be able to get out of their team kits.
You know what? I'm gonna call them out right now. Give me 1 second.
I like it.
The 111 person. It was definitely a girl.
So our one solo rider's been reeled back in, I believe, as this is our main field that we're seeing behind here. A little bit faster conditions. Again, they're familiar. Again, they're doing 3 laps of what's called the Juniper Swamp Loop, and so they kind of know what to expect. They know on what sections of the course they can try to be able to get away where the hard sections are. And look at how it's strung out. Single file line for a long ways behind them. It almost looks like there's a gap opening up between our first 3 or 4 riders right here. So very fast section of this loop right now as these riders trying to be able to push the pace, testing each other, trying to be able to see. You got to have those bike handling skills. It's not just about being able to be strongest. Putting out power is important, but on a day like today, it minimizes the advantage you have from being able to put out massive amounts of power, because you got to be careful of getting out of the saddle on the uphills. Your tires will start to be able to spin out. Same thing in the corners, and so rain, wet, muddy conditions levels things out a little bit more to those that are incredibly strong, to those that are average strong. And also you got to take into account, again, those cycling skills. That's going to become pretty important as well. Riders that have raced for a long time or raced in the rain for many years, they're going to know how to be able to handle conditions in a course like this. Dieter Drake, a big thank you to our event organizer and promoter, Dieter with Anthem Sports, and this is America's Queen of the Classics. Anthem Tours, you ever check them out? They have international trips and cycling trips, fantastic trips that you can be able to take. A big thank you also to the city of Cambridge, Cambridge Assisted Living, which is right next door to where our start line is. Artisanal Brew Works, Battenkill Valley Creamery, just to name it. A few of the partners all coming together to be able to bring Battenkill back to life. It resurrected itself last year when Dieter decided to be able to bring the road race back here to Manchester, New York. It was in 2025. This is 2026, and this year's race is specifically in memory of former moto director Dave Percy, who lost his life last year after Battenkill. And so in memory of Dave Percy, our Battenkill race in honor of him. Got to be going 30 to 35 miles an hour on that gradual downhill onto these little sections, because that's what's causing the gaps to open up. One rider trying to be able to go across that gap. It looks like he's going to be able to make it. Got to get on there immediately too. You don't want to take you do not want to take your time when shutting down a gap like that. You got to be able to get into that draft to be able to save some energy. So reading the race and reacting to it pretty much at the right time. That rider in third position doing a fantastic job to get up to our 2 leaders. Now what's going to happen with the main group behind? Is it the right combination? Is there a good guys racer up there?
We'd love to get our pro ribbon for the podium, please. Pro ribbon for the podium. Aubrey Drummond, Cam Ballard, and Nate Garnier.
Gap looks like it's only about 3 seconds as these guys continue to be able to push that pace. So again, which team is going to be represented? The black jerseys of Good Guys Racing, Big Hit Racing looking for Ride with Rendell, CRCA Rockstar Games. A lot of these teams have multiple riders in here, 5 and 6 deep. And they want to be able to have somebody in that front group. You don't want to let a group go up the road unless you have a representative. That's the only way you'll be able to take a little bit of a free ride sitting on the back and not have to do any chasing. Third time we've seen a break try to establish itself. And look at it strung out behind, single file again. Alarm bells are going off in the main field. They are in full chase mode, trying to be able to bring back these 3 guys. Single file line. So good racing action. This is by no means an easy start to a very long day of cycling. 106 miles, 3,700 feet of climbing, and they've been chasing down everything There are going to be some tired legs at the end of this day. That's absolutely for sure. But the three riders, I got to give them the compliments in the front. They are not giving up, and the gap seems like it was opening up. Boy, it seemed closer just a minute ago. What happened to the group? Oh, it was just a little bit of a mist covering the front riders. I really quite couldn't see exactly where they were.
Most of them were getting, and I think probably only got one or two riders like
2010 to 2012, there was 3 years where this was a primetime UCI event, as different riders all came from around the country. Very international event as well, with the UCI riders trying to be able to gather up points. Some of the best riders in the nation. Obviously, they were definitely here tackling pretty much a 90% the same road course than what we had back in 2010 and 2012 is what we're racing on right now. Originally, this started off smaller, kind of a road race in 2005, and it just kind of kept growing and growing, becoming a little bit more popular. Riders saw what a great time they would have out here, tell their friends, and it grew. And for 2005 to 2017, rolling terrain of the farmland all around here in Cambridge. Very green for the amount of rain that they have had. May showers definitely prevalent today. Yesterday, a beautiful day. Temperatures right now about 45 degrees and raining, and there's your group of 7 right there as we look back. All the team cars are following up behind us, so that means the chase group, wherever they may be, are going to be a little bit further back, at least over a minute. As you can see, this is one of our feed zones. 4 different feed zones coming at, we've already covered at mile 20 and mile 41, so coming up right now, mile 67 and 89 are the last 2 feed zones, and typical in a road race, there's not going to be any feeding during those last, let's say, call it 20 kilometers, or a little bit over 20 miles. The whole entire breakaway started off with a group of 3, and then we had about 4 riders a bridge up there, trying to be able to still get confirmation if it is only a group of 7 or have more riders come across that gap to expand that. 2 of the riders that I know that were in that original break, that was going to be Otis Engel from Meridian Racing, and then also with rider number 11, which is going to be Baker Donahue with Big Hit Racing. Now, Big Hit Racing, 8 riders here in Battenkill. So that's a pretty good squad with good representation, and they got 1 rider up there. Cesar Gallego is one of those riders on that Big Hit Racing team. But in this case, again, it's going to be Donahue that has made it into the breakaway. Some massive farms, not only agriculture, but also dairy farms, cattle farms. As I'm not going to yell at these ladies. They'll figure out to get out of the road as we have more riders coming in with our Grand Fondos. But again, agricultural, dairy farms, all around the surrounding area. Some massive complexes. You can imagine the amount of land and acreage that a lot of these local farmers own. As these riders coming up to one of the turns here. Again, they're doing a big loop out on Argyle Loop. Once they finish that up, they'll be starting to be able to head back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 riders. Still a little bit difficult to be able to say from this angle how many riders are in that breakaway. You got all the team cars following behind them. They do have a caravan. We have neutral service available with the motorcycles and cars for wheels and things. And we also have the team cars. Looks like an attack going in right out of that turn, trying to be able to keep things strung out, trying to be able to test the riders. There's 2 riders right now, 2-second gap. I'm seeing 6. Unless I miss somebody off the front or off the back, I'm seeing 6 riders that are trying to be able to separate themselves right now. And you can just see, how just covered in mud and dirt You know, this is one of those decisions. Do you keep the glasses on or do you take the glasses off? A lot of work taking place with these riders, you know, pedaling as much a little bit with their upper body as with their legs. The fatigue finally starting to be able to set in. Very quick start. In the beginning, a lot of attacks and the speed was going, and you can see this rider right in front not able to shut that gap down too much on this gradual uphill. Maybe on purpose, maybe trying to be able to force a reaction, but got to be able to get onto that wheel. You can see even that little gap after the two riders came by, struggling to be able to close that gap. So the fatigue definitely setting in for certain riders as they continue to be able to kind of test each other. Now, how far is it to go? I don't know. You know, so, like, is it time to be able to attack and try to be able to separate yourself, maybe with a group of three? But if we're still, you know, if we're still 30 miles out, 50K out, that's a long ways to go. So it might be a little bit too early. Current time is 4 o'clock. Remember, they started at 1:15. So we're coming up on, you know, in a little bit, we're going to have 3 hours of racing. They're going to have at least another hour, hour and a half of racing. Number 64, I already have him down there. The blue jersey in the front, that's number 11. 64 is that rider in pink. And these two riders here with the kind of black jerseys and the blue shorts, almost teammates, those are two of them that I don't have their numbers, so I'm not even sure which ones they are. And then, of course, there's a couple riders behind them as well. But definitely, we're down to 6. Was a group of 7, so somebody's been separated and shelled off the back as our 6 riders working together. Time gap being reported is 90 seconds to the chasers, 90 seconds to the main field, lead group of 6. Every time they slow down, we've seen different riders come into the front. Sometimes they're attacking, and sometimes they're riding a little bit of tempo, but it's better just to get everybody to rotate, force them to be able to rotate, just to be able to keep it a little bit smoother, to be able to give yourself a chance to be able to stay. Obviously, some people are going to be feeling good, and then every time they ramp it up on those uphills, that's going to be taking a little bit of juice out of somebody else's legs. Nice shot of the undulating roads, a little bit up and down. Very much sawtooth as riders are making their way around. They're going to have a total with their 106 miles, over 6,700 feet of climbing. Some of it's going to come easy, some of it's going to come hard, some of it will be a little bit tricky because of the rainy and dirty conditions. And remember, it's not all cement. It's not a typical road race. They do go on a good amount of dirt sections roads. Probably about 25% of the course is on dirt roads. The rest of it is on the cement roads. And, again, small roads, once they start coming back into town, they'll be on a little bit bigger county roads. Yellow line rule, they'll have to be able to pay attention to that, trying to be able to stay to the right-hand side while trying to be able to race their bike, trying to be able to see who will win here in Battenkill. Last year, 2025, it was a breakaway of 2 riders. And that was going to be Ben Oliver along with Andrew Strohmeyer. Strohmeyer, your current cyclocross national champion, finished up second place. And Ben Oliver, coming out of New Zealand, he was your winner. And he's now moved on, not here racing, but has moved on and racing for that brand new American pro team, Modern Adventure. Ben Oliver's been doing a lot of criteriums for the last couple years, present at Tour of America's Dairyland and Chicago Grit, and ended up winning the overall, I believe it was of Chicago Grit, picking up 2 or 3 stages along the way as well. So super fast rider, and that's why he was able to win that sprint at the end of Battenkill. It was Maxime Richard finishing up in 3rd, Nick Tabaris in 4th, Mark Laffrey. Now, last time I checked, Laffrey was one of the riders that was here. The rest of the riders were not returning as Keegan Hornblow was 6th place. And I didn't see any of these guys on the start sheet, but Laffrey did come back for the 2026 race. And again, not sure if he's one of the 6 or not. Again, I only got 2 numbers out of that first group of 6 as they have a 90-second lead, and I'm waiting right now to try to get information on where they are. So supposedly they are at mile 70, which puts them at 35 miles from the finish, which is about what I guessed, about 50K out. So again, that's a long ways to be able to kind of split up that group if you want to be able to try to be able to make it back. That cooperation will end a little bit later on, but for now, our 6 riders continue to be able to work together. All right, time to be able to stop that cooperation. Once again, we talked about it being about 30 miles out. That's what's happening right now, but they're under the attack. Look at it. It's going to be a group of 3 and a group of 3, maybe a group of 1, and if anybody else can keep up to them. Big move here with such a long ways to go. I'm surprised at how big an effort that is, and he's not giving up. He's turning around. He sees them coming, and he just puts his head down and gets a little bit more arrow. These type of speeds, though, and he does have a teammate. So he's got a teammate that I don't know which group the teammate is in, but when you're going this type of speeds, like bending those elbows, getting that head down, aerodynamics plays such a key part.
Yeah, especially the later you get into the race, you're trying to save every ounce of energy you can and go as fast as you can at the same time. You know, your energy's starting to kind of wane a little bit, and everything you can do to get more power out of yourself, you got to do. You got to get those shoulders low. You got to stay as arrow as you can on the front end. And this one rider doing a good job. 2 guys on the chase. So that front group is definitely split up a little bit. The rider in the pink, Otis Engel, not looking like he's in the picture right now. So not entirely sure what happened to Otis, but this is strung out right now. Really early from the finish. I know we're getting strung out right now. Really early from the finish. I know we're getting inside of 35, probably 33 miles to the long. But obviously, this rider not really confident in coming down to a group sprint, so trying to maybe play the long game a little bit.
I think he's confident in his fitness because he's just going. I mean, these other 2 guys are 2 seconds off of his wheel, and he's still not giving up. You know, he's making them work to be able to get into that draft, and I think finally just now all of them have been able to get into the draft. And so you're going to see, I think, that first rider maybe sit up a little bit and swing off, or maybe he's going to keep it going a little bit longer because he knows he distanced off 3. Didn't want to have the sprint of 6 like you just mentioned. Maybe a little bit more comfortable working with the group 3, but will the other 2 cooperate with him? Will the other 2 work with him? And again, as long as, this rider on the front, he does have a teammate in the back, and so that should be shutting down that rear group. It's just a matter of which of these 2 riders have made it into the front group. But you mentioned that young rider, Otis Engel, missing the move, and this is going to be a big gap to be able to try to be able to come across by yourself.
Oh,
that's
look,
Engel right there.
Otis, that is Otis.
So he did make it. So you talked about it. You were telling me earlier, like, what a talented young rider this is. Yesterday, I think him in Europe going to Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, he's a young rider out of Mertztown, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of the Lehigh Valley Velodrome, the track up in Trexlertown. Kind of grew up racing on the track. Has won a few national titles, and I think it was either last year or the year before. I kind of lose track. Member of the junior national team, and he was the captain of the junior national squad over at Paris-Roubaix. Had a great ride over there, helped some of those riders like Ashlyn Berry when he had a great ride over there. Otis part of that program. So, I saw his father this morning, Daryl. I got to speak for just a minute, and I was like, oh man, when I saw Otis on the list, he's definitely one of the guys I think to watch in this race. And indeed, he's driving the train right now with 2 other riders, trying to ID who they are. It looks like maybe one of the good guys racing out of New York on the back there. Just a little bit of flex on the back, and that's a real indicator of the stress that these riders are under right now. Yeah, that is the good guys team because they are sponsored by Pinarello. You can just see that on the side there. Otis swinging off, taking a look around. That middle rider not really taking much of a pull, so that's a little bit of a sign that either doesn't like the formation of this group or he's on the ropes a little bit.
Trying to get that number of the good guys, and you can see the back 2 are kind of talking to each other. It might almost look like a 50-something. So, the dirt on the number and the dirt on the lens, making it difficult to be able to ID exactly who some of these riders are. But the first one, the one on the gold bike, is the first one that went. He's the one that decided to break this race apart and was getting tucked in an arrow and forcing those other 2. And you can see the size difference with the power. So, Engel and this other good guys racing, they might be at a little bit of a disadvantage when you get to some of these uphills compared to the rider that is sitting in that position there in third position right now. Smaller frame, might be a little bit better climber.
Yeah, it even disadvantaged in the sense maybe on the flats a little bit. You see Engel, he's sitting up hands on the hoods, and even when he was following in second position, sitting up just a little bit higher than that rider on the gold bike, and that's going to be something he's going to want to pay attention to because, we talk about all those little energy-saving tactics out there, and he's going to want to try and get as low as he can and get as much draft as he can. And, I mean, Otis, 6'2" guy, he's a big guy, so he's going to have to make himself real low when he gets on the back of the bus here.
54, I'm going to go with. What do you think?
That's 54 is Otis, whatever that.
No. 64 is Otis. I think this guy in black, or the Good Guys Racing, is 54. I'm going to double check that. Good Guys Racing it is.
Gotcha.
So I got Satchel Kim.
Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
So that's the number I read, and obviously Satchel Kim, decent sized rider on that blue Pinarello. So he's got a lot of seat post out, doesn't he? Trying to be able to keep that frame small to be able to keep it stiff so that he feels good on it.
Yeah, not an uncommon thing for some of those riders to do is ride as small a bike as they could possibly get on. And, Satchel's already got a couple of wins this year. He took the win at the Cherry Blossom Challenge back in early April in Newark, New Jersey. Also took a win in one of the Spring Series races in Branchbrook Park a little earlier this year. Also took part in Redlands as part of the Collegiate All-Star team.
Well, that'll put you some good fitness. 5 days of racing for that. Does it go back up to the top? Does it show his age?
Yeah, sure does. 23. So yeah, young up and coming rider.
So Satchel Kim 23. Otis Engel is going to be 19, 20.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
You look him up. I'll look up Baker Donahue and see where he is in the age, trying to be able to see it. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of these guys are under 23, just because these youngsters, they just get so good and they just dominate a lot of these when they're racing against older riders. No, so Baker, the old man of the group, he's going to be 31.
Wow.
So Satchel Kim at 23, Baker Donahue 31. And again, Baker, well, now that I'm thinking about it, Baker Donahue, he's in the second group. Baker Donahue in that break. We don't know the third place rider. Otis Engel in that pink jersey. Did you get an age yet?
Yeah, Otis, 20 years old. Yeah.
So Otis is 20 years old. Satchel Kim, which is the larger, the rider on the blue bike, is 23 years old. And then we're missing the smaller rider with the orange bike on what his number is or name.
It looks like Otis doing some collegiate racing earlier this year, the Bucknell Cycling Classic, picking up a couple of podium finishes out there, 2 second places. Also picked up a third at a spring race earlier. And also, interestingly to note, Otis, the only one of those 3 riders that I'm pretty sure of is on a pro team, the UCI team, Meridian Racing, presented by De La Uz. A young rider getting his chance at the big time, riding for one of the small continental squads. Again, that gap, believe it to be around 2 minutes right now. So 2 minutes for our 3 leaders. Last split we got was they were around 35 miles ago, so now probably inside of 30 miles, so inside that final 50 Ks at this point. And it'd be interesting to know what's going on in that chase back there. We know that Good Guys squad, they've got some riders back there in the chase, probably trying to slow things down. Otis, he's here all by himself, so he's trying to astutely following this move, or making sure he's part of this move that's got a couple different teams represented, so it takes a little weight off of his shoulders. You kind of wonder, is this going to be the move that is going to go to the line?
Last check was 2 minutes, so they have a good chance of staying away. They're going to need to cooperate a little bit more, but that cooperation almost disappeared. It separated the 6 down to 3 as that one rider was on the attack right there, forcing Otis Engel to be able to go after him and Satchel Kim to be able to work together to be able to get up to that sole leader. So we got 3 riders in front by about 30 seconds in front of another group of 3, and then it's 2 minutes to the main field. Rain has slowed down a little bit. Temperature still, under 50. So it's still a little bit chilly, but it's not like pouring the way it was. It's still drizzling, a little bit of moisture coming down, and all the rain that we've had from starting last night to all this morning has definitely soaked the roads, making it extremely dirty. So these are part of one of the dirt roads these riders have to be careful of. And again, when you're in the breakaway, it's an advantage for the break compared to the field to be able to maintain that gap, because the main field is not going to have a bunch of chasers be able to fly around a turn much quicker than what the breakaway can do. So the speed pretty much stays relatively the same, and that makes it difficult for the field to be able to catch back to our leader. So right now, advantage for the 3, coming up on a little bit under 30 miles to go.
Yeah, and that cooperation, right? You get the 3 riders in the front. They all have a vested interest now. They all like their odds, because no matter what would happen amongst those top 3, they're all going to get on the podium. So certainly not a bad result, even if you're on the smaller step of the podium. So
chocolate milk for all.
Chocolate milk for everybody. Baby.
You gave me that bottle. I ended up drinking the whole thing.
Yeah, I killed mine. I'm probably going to kill a second one before the day is out.
It was very good, but I was like, I couldn't believe I drank the whole thing. I was like, I cannot drink this whole chocolate milk, and I did. And we're not talking like a little, what do you call those, like?
It's like a quart, right?
Yeah, it's not the, well, am I saying, it's not those, it's not the lunch box that you get at school, the cardboard school lunch. Right. No, we're talking about a big old glass bottle. I showed it earlier on the stream. And a nice bottle. It even says Battenkill 2026, right. Queen of the Classics. Yeah, it definitely, it's an item to bring home.
How many can you fit in your carry-on tomorrow, do you think?
I'd have to drain them all, and I'm not willing to do that because I'm flying. And I'm not gonna drain them all to be able to take home that'd be way too much a waste of good chocolate milk.
It'd be a beautiful vase for some flowers at home.
Yep. Well, the one I drank, I can bring home the empty glass bottle there.
There you go.
Yep. I don't know if Betsy will appreciate it, but
put it in your office. Right?
Do you know what tomorrow is?
I know, Mother's Day. You better get home. On the early flight.
I'm bringing her I'm bringing her a Battenkill Dairy Creamery chocolate milk.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thanks for raising our 3 kids.
I splurged.
Oh man, that'll go over well. Video that and send it to me, would you? I want to see how that works out for you.
I could have my hands cut off.
Yeah, you think?
For that, yeah. So, dirt road, another one, Battenkill, that's what it's known for.
Everyone's saying, so I heard some feedback from some of our masters, and the dirt not so much sticky as it is just really slippery, so that top layer just getting super greasy, and a number of pretty spectacular crashes in the masters races with, the front wheel just washing out on people, guys going over the bars and things like that. So real slippery, real cautious riding needed on that stuff. It's almost easier when it's just a little bit thicker and you just maybe sink in a little bit and you have to put a little extra power down to plow through. But when that top is like an ice skating rink, super hard to maintain high speed and navigate through that safely.
Well, I sent a text just a little bit ago to our camera guy, not that he's looking at his phone while he's trying to film and drive the motorbike and do everything, but I told him to go back and I said, ask that guy in the orange bike who he is. Give me a name or a number. And obviously he's going the wrong direction right now because he's going forward instead of going backwards to be able to figure out who that middle rider is. It's so hard because you can't even see the color of the jersey because he doesn't even have a team jersey on because he's got the rain jacket on top of it. And everybody, how common is a black rain jacket? That's what everybody has.
Exactly. It's so funny because it looks like a rider you were talking about early in the race, Mike Reidenbach, one of the Total Civil Construction guys. Very similar body style. And Mike has had good rides here in the past, so I kind of keep wondering if that could be Mike Reidenbach hiding in that group up in the front. Latest gap, we're actually getting a new time gap, 3 minutes. 3 minutes is the gap, and one of our riders is doing a little bit of attacking in that front trio, so it sounds like Otis Engel has been doing some attacking in that trio, so he's obviously feeling pretty good, and kind of surprising because Otis is actually a pretty quick finisher, cut his teeth on the velodrome, and has picked up a few national titles as a junior, and I'm a little surprised that he wants to try and ditch some of his companions, so maybe the cooperation wasn't really there as much as he would like, and so he's throwing down a few attacks out there.
Maybe number 3 is, so he got 64, which we knew, 54, I don't know why he just wrote me 70, somebody wrote me 71, and 11. I know it's not 11 because 11 is Baker Donahue. He's in the rear group. And then number 3. That's the thing, though. That could be from the rear 3, this number 54 or 3.
I mean, if it's Bo Gunther, he's a very good cyclocross rider. Had a great season, kind of getting his way into some UCI points throughout the cross season. Riding, I think Bo was riding for the Jam Fund, if I am correct. But yeah, had a pretty good cross season. Just kind of sneaking into the tail end of UCI points in a handful of races. So wouldn't surprise me if a rider of his quality is up there in the front in these conditions. But look at that. Looks like there goes Engel coming through. A little bit of a gap. Looks like, yeah, not actually just seeing the follow motors there at the moment. So we'll try and make sure that's over.
What's happening is in the main field, that was 2 minutes back, it's shattering. They're attacking the heck out of each other. So there's groups all over the place. I got that, Baker Donahue is one of those riders that's attacking, and then another couple other riders are attacking. They're all over the place right now attacking. Another one of those good guy riders, number 54, he's on the move, trying to be able to get up to the leaders as well. And so that is going to be...
54 is Satchel. That's our guy, Satchel Kim.
All right. So he's in the break, we know that. So who's number 3? Let's see here, number 3. Number 3 I had here is Bo Gunther.
Yeah, that's Bo Gunther.
With Ride with Rindal, so I'm not really sure. We have to pay attention to.
They're good.
Maybe we can see what the shorts are to be able to kind of get an idea of what team that is, and we might be able to figure it out from there. But your man Engel, the 20-year-old now going up the road, that's him right there. Normally it's a pink jersey. Right now I call it a gray jersey. The gray jersey to match with the gray shorts. Otis Engel tucking in.
Yeah, he's a bigger build guy, so really suited to these conditions, right? He's got a big diesel engine. The hills, a lot of climbing, a lot of elevation, but none of the climbs necessarily long enough to be terribly detrimental. All the climbs are in that 1 mile or so length. So a rider that's a little bit bigger like Otis can power up and over those repeatedly. And then every time he gets on the descents or the flat roads, he's got such a diesel locomotive engine that he can really keep it going. And I mean, look, he fares well in this kind of inclement weather, right? I mean, he's raced on the roads of Europe with the national team and some races like Paris-Roubaix and junior and some of those other major junior events. So very accustomed to these conditions as the camera hones in. And I'll tell you what, he looks really comfortable right now. Mouth open just a little bit, shoulders, rocking a little bit, but just in time with the pedal stroke. But right now, he's looking very, very solid, taking a couple looks back over his shoulder.
Yeah, currently a student at Penn State University as he continues to be able to drive and make his way up there.
Still lots can happen, though. We talked about it earlier. This race longer than most of what these riders have seen at any point this year. Certainly, even at stages of Redlands, where Satchel Kim was on that collegiate all-star squad. The stages there, I don't think anything was in excess of about 80 or 90 miles, maybe. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but you go that extra 20 miles or so, and that's another 45 minutes of racing. And that's a really big difference in terms of training and fueling and like that. And smartly, Otis Engel reaching into the pocket to keep throwing those calories in the hash, because he knows at this point he can't afford to bonk. He can't afford a lull in his energy levels. He's got to stay steady.
Yeah, he knows the 2 riders behind him are going to be, semi-close. And we saw the strength from Satchel Kim and Otis Engel. Now, the question is, the smaller rider, I wonder if he's working with Satchel Kim. Are they in chase mode? And I'm not really sure how big a gap is. And Otis Engel coming from a track background. He's a previous junior national champion as well on the track. And so translating that over, kind of moving more into the road. You talked about his racing in Europe, obviously coming here to handle 106 miles in Battenkill. You got to put in some training to be able to do, be able to dominate here in a 4-hour race, which is about what these guys are going to end up finishing in. And right now, the young 20-year-old with a gap. Not sure how big a gap is because we haven't seen behind us. Our camera guy is not turned around. He's focused on what's in front as we're keeping a great eye on the rider with the pink jersey and the gray shorts.
Yeah, every so often he casts a look over his shoulder, so you kind of wonder if that chase might be still a little bit close. Once you get up over 30 seconds or so, you kind of get a little bit more confidence, and you don't pay nearly as much attention to what's going on behind you because you've established that gap. You know that the group has to ride pretty hard to bring you back as long as you can stay steady. So I kind of wonder if that camera panned back, if those chasers are kind of close. But remember, when the three were together, that rider that we're still trying to figure out who it is, he was not necessarily sitting out pulls in that group, but really short pulls compared to the length of time that Kim and Engel were pulling on the front. So if that was an indication of the legs were kind of going sideways, then
that means Kim's not going to have very much help.
right, exactly. So if it's a man-to-man race now of Kim and Engel, that's a tough battle.
Yeah, and Engel would have the advantage because he can ride at 90% effort, whereas if you're Kim and you're towing someone around, you're going to be kind of at a 60% effort because you always want to keep something in reserves. You're not just going to give somebody a free ride. So you're automatically at a disadvantage when you're with a weaker rider and they decide to be able to sit on. So right now, Otis Engel right now with a pretty good gap trying to be able to go up the road. Miles are coming down as we're getting down to about 25 miles to go. So sitting here in a tent, staying out of trouble. Drop my pin here. Frankie Andreu alongside Bill Ellison as a little bit of drizzle that's coming down. And we've seen different riders attacking very early on. We had a break of 21st 25 miles were done very rapidly. And then they did 3 laps on an inner loop. And right after that, we saw like 15 pros come back here.
Right.
They were covered. They were laughing. They were like, this is ridiculous. But the tough men are still out there with our motos right now, trying to be able to make it into the finish. Unofficially, we're thinking 22 miles to go as Otis Engel is off the front arm. We're going to have to go back to break right now. I thought we had this thing going, and there we go.
There we go.
Now we got our pictures back as more riders from our Grand Fondos are making their way back in. So, yeah, we have 16 different groups. You know, our mini Battenkill, the mid Battenkill, the full Battenkill, all of our USAC events, 16 different groups, all these different categories out here, all challenging on 6 different courses. And, of course, the longest one is our Pro Men doing 106 miles, covering 6,700 feet of climbing. And there's a nice shot going back behind Engel. And pretty much I see nobody.
Yeah, there's nothing out back there. And you can see for, probably a good bit behind there, no lights of another motor or a car or anything like that. And Otis looking pretty comfortable still, not cutting the most aerodynamic figure, but still looking pretty comfortable, pretty powerful as he's kind of checking his distance there. I'm sure he's got his little cue sheet there on the stem trying to figure out what the next obstacle is. So many challenging dirt sections of this course out here, and I think the last section isn't too far out of town here.
In general, the taller you are, the harder it is as you get an arrow. It's hard to when you're taller. It's hard to get rid of that frontal area. You can only bend your elbows so much and get down. Whereas if you're a smaller rider, it's much easier to be able to cover up that frontal area. And that's where that parachute is. That wind coming right in between his elbows, right up to his chest. A little glance behind him, he sees the motorbike there. But again, I don't see the chasers anywhere.
Nowhere.
And
way back.
And
right?
way back there. I mean, it's kind of hard to be able to see. But yeah, otherwise we might have seen a light from maybe another motorcycle leading the group. But Engel's got to feel a little bit more confident. So this is when you start backing it down to about 80%, making sure you're fueling yourself, eating and drinking, but just kind of riding a steady tempo. And then once if you realize that you're starting to get yourself into trouble and you see somebody coming up and they get within 15, 20 seconds, then you can start going down, to that 95% effort. But right now, just about riding steady and trying to be able to make your way back into the finish.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great point that, now he can kind of back off the pace. And, a lot of inexperienced riders would just kind of stay with the throttle cracked all the way open as hard as they could go. And, it becomes a little bit of a game out there, right? Like he's got the gap and he knows he's getting splits from the motor. And as long as that gap is holding steady, or going out still, he can throttle back a little bit because, again, saving it, there's still another almost an hour of racing yet to go. And so many things can happen. And if he's not cautious about how much food he's taking in, you want to be ready if you start to get a little bit of a sugar crash there. And at the same time, if the group starts to come back on you, you want to be able to have a little bit in the tank to pick that pace back up and try and keep that time gap relatively even. So very smart riding, smart pacing right now by Otis Engel to kind of dial back a little bit and just put it on cruise control really for the moment, because at the end of the day, the impetus is more on the chasers now because it's, I always say it's kind of like 4th grade math, right? Like to go faster. That's the simple answer is the chasers have to go faster than the leader if they want to get there. So the
And
risk is on them.
and at high speeds, it's a lot harder
Right.
to go faster. And one thing you talk about the chase, the impetus is on the chase. We don't even know where the main field is.
Right, yeah.
Last reports were 2 minutes. Have they gotten organized? Have they decided to be able to go forward? Because you got to remember now in the front group, there's no good guys racing. There's no Ride with Wendell. There's no of these other teams. So, I mean, if these teams still have some riders that are there, they could organize and start to be able to bring this back, but just depends on how fresh the legs are, because we've seen a lot of riders, again, coming into the finish line that have decided to bail out. So there could be some, workers that are not feeling so good making their way back here to the finish line way before the finish.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is some of the last clips we saw of the chasers in the field, it looked like it was starting to blow apart. Riders were starting to, that big field wasn't necessarily a big field anymore. It was these smaller groups of ones and twos, and, I think that's going to work in Engel's favor as well, because riders are just kind of scattered all over, and I think for the chase to catch, it's going to have to be strength in numbers at this point.
Yeah, I got to say, Engel looks still pretty good, too. Doesn't look like he's slowing down, doesn't look like he's struggling. I don't know what our camera guy's taking a picture of the trees in the forest when our
Beautiful, man. Washington County, dude.
I mean, Engel's going so fast, he's staying out of the camera lens.
Yeah, you're right, though. He looks super smooth. You always look for those kind of tells from the body language. If the shoulders start to rock, heavily side to side, if the head is constantly dropping, if the pedal stroke becomes real uneven, if they're kind of moving left, right on the bike and can't hold a straight line, those are all signs that the gas tank is starting to run pretty empty. And Otis not showing any of that right now, just kind of rock solid on the bike. There we go. There we go. Hard to believe 20 years of this race, right? Started out as, maybe a smaller affair, and then we had a number of years where it was a UCI race, and it was the one year I raced it, it was 2009 or 10, we only did the big 100K loop, but we did 2 laps of it, and it was brutal. It was weather like this, and by the end of the first lap, easily half the field didn't even bother going out of town for the start of the second lap.
I can remember coming as a team director for one of those years, the UCI years, and the course was brutal.
Oh.
A lot of up and down and some steep climbs in the dirt and the mud, and very, very, very challenging, very difficult, up to the level of a UCI to be able to make it challenging. Floyd Landis rode back then, and a bunch of, there's a ton of different riders. I didn't go back and research to see who won Battenkill in 2010. But there's a lot of big names that won this bike race back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. This was always an early spring target. Back then I think it was actually in April. We were maybe about 2 weeks before our current date. And of course they moved to May in the attempt to try and find better weather. Didn't really pan out for them. But oh geez, that gap now up to 3:20. My word. So Otis Engel, that young man on fire, the 20-year-old on fire, so 20-year-old, is on fire up at the front, just continuing to extend that gap. So, again, we don't know what's going on behind, but we know it's not a concerted chase. So you have to wonder if Kim is still off the front. They were 2.5 minutes up on the field, so I'd be hard-pressed to think that the field has caught those two back at this point. But, yeah, Otis Engel, the story of the day right now, just putting in a big effort as we got a great shot of him from behind here, just rolling right down the middle of the road, chewing up the miles, and he's got to be getting those splits, and he's got to be pretty happy with his performance at the moment. And he's got to be thinking, all right, stay safe, stay conservative, and just keep eating and keep drinking. That's all you can do right now. Make another one of those left turns out in these farmlands. Beautiful area to ride a bike. Just we're based out of Cambridge, New York here for the start finish, and taking in all the wonderful farm roads of the southern Washington County area. A couple of main roads here and there where they need to as connectors. So, a lot of farm roads through some great communities, a lot of Amish out here in the area. And it's just become a wonderful little place to live, wonderful place for these guys to have a bike race. So we'll try and get a little bit of a split here back to our chasers if we can get some more insight. But yeah, right now, my word, all the Otis Engel show on the front right now. Young man out of Bertstown, Pennsylvania. It's a sleepy little area, not too far from the Trexler town in Velodrome, rather, in Trexlertown, PA. Otis been racing for a number of years and racing all the different bikes. I've seen him at cross races, road races, criteriums, doing some mountain bike racing as well. And it's as youngsters should, to develop their skill set. And that's what helps riders like Otis become such a good bike racer at this age, is just all that experience from multi-discipline racing. And he's able to handle conditions like this with relative ease. Trying to get a look at that face, and still looks, still no signs of fatigue out there. I hope those gears are working well. I saw a lot of riders coming in with just some challenges with their shifting, and obviously the disc brakes making a whole lot of noise because the mud and grit accumulation on these bikes can sometimes make them work not necessarily as well as they're intended to work. So hopefully Otis's machine is completely up to snuff out there. We've not seen any need for the follow vehicles. We've got some motorcycles back there with wheels and kit just in case. Unfortunately for Otis, he's not had to utilize any of that. Our crew from Comp Edge Racing providing neutral support for many of our races out here today. Of course, Competitive Edge sponsoring many riders. They're pro women on the Competitive Edge squad, going 1-2 earlier today, so a great showing by them. I think there might only be a few of the men, if any, maybe none of the Comp Edge men here. I think they are kind of taking a little bit of a breather before they get back into action. Of course, Pro Nationals coming up in just a couple of weeks, and a lot of big races yet on the calendar, so hard to hit every single race.
Getting reports, Engel are leaders about 23 miles out, so he's chopping away at that distance. Almost looks like it stopped raining out there. I don't want to say the roads are drier, but definitely drier than what we saw on those dirt roads, where that dirt is just kind of collecting all of that water as they're going through puddles, and the cement running off a little bit more of that fluid. 23 miles to go for our leader. To the main field, it was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That doesn't count maybe the three riders that were in between there. Remember, there was a breakaway of 6. So we're missing 5 guys in between somewhere, and they're not going to be 3 minutes back. They're going to be like in the middle. And so right now, Engel continuing to be able to increase that lead on this rolling enclosure race here in Battenkill. Great ride right now by the young 20-year-old. Can he hold on? Can he win the 2026 Battenkill? That's what we're waiting to see.
Yeah, you wonder what's going through his head right now. It's, Otis has won a lot of small races in the Mid-Atlantic, but Battenkill, this could arguably be one of the biggest races on his resume if he can walk off with the win. So you have to wonder what that young man is thinking. I mean, he's on a smaller pro team, so he's already made one big step in his young career. But this would be a wonderful win for him.
So just a minute ago, I texted my TV guy to be able to stop and leave the leader alone, and let's go back to the second chasers and see what's going on with them, and that's exactly what they have done here. So it's a 25-second gap. That's not much, right? We didn't know where they were, right? It was a mystery. Engel was up the road. Who was following? Who was in behind? Well, now we know. And so that, cruise at 80%. I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore, as that's going to be number 31, I believe. And so I don't know if that's our chasers. I don't even know where 31 came from, because unless he took off his jacket. He might have been in the group of 6, and maybe he took off his jacket. So now we have number 31 that is up there. But again, that gap right now, 25 seconds, trying to be able to wait to be able to see who. And then I think that might be is that the orange bike that is in front of him? Trying to be able to get an eye on that. And we'll see that in a little bit once we get a little bit better idea of which riders they are. And I think that smaller rider in the front. So the question would be, what happened to Satchel Kim?
Yeah, Satchel was one of the stronger riders in that chasing group. So yeah, to see him out of the picture now, a little bit surprising. That's one of our Jameson Capital guys. So that's let's try and scan through. I don't know that that's going to be
30.
rider
So
number
30. Sorry,
31.
you don't think that's 31?
No, it's because they're a different kit. So that might be either Will Gleason. He's number 66. I mean, or Chris Prendergast, 71. So that's Chris
I like that Prendergast.
71. So that's Chris
I like that Prendergast, and that would be.
He's a really quality rider. So not at all surprising to see him.
100%. That would make sense. Prendergast. He is a strong rider. Man, it's hard to see with those numbers just to be able to make sure. But again, that little one on the orange bike, and I call it orange. I don't even know. It's like gray. All these colors are blended.
Yeah,
so he made it there. So Satchel Kim. And the bigger question is, where did 31 come from?
Yeah, no kidding. Where did he come from? We're getting 3 up there too. So Henry Kuntz potentially from R&R New York City Racing. So maybe that's the rider that's been unidentifiable up to this point. But yeah, that explains why Otis kept looking back, right? Like he was looking back maybe more than we thought when we kept getting that time split, and he would occasionally look over his shoulder. But that certainly explains why, because these guys are not far behind.
Yeah, no,
honestly, they might be closing that gap.
They're coming. That is 71. I think, as you're right. I think you just got a little glimpse of that. So we're going to go with Prendergast, number 71. And so now, looking over the shoulder, trying to be able to hold off on a 25-second gap. That's not a lot. These two guys work together. Two's always better than one. It's all going to depend on how fresh the legs are of Engel.
Yeah, again, as strong as Otis is looking, as much as we've complimented his resume and his current style out here, yeah, again, it's almost like another simple math equation. 2 against 1, you would tend to favor the 2 riders because they can take some good pulls, they can recover, and they can, in theory, keep the speed a little bit higher out there. So yeah, this is going to be a big moment for the young man from Pennsylvania out there. See if Engel can hold these guys off. He's got roughly 20 miles right now. I think it's going to be a tall order at this point because he's been out there long enough by himself. He's no doubt burned a couple of matches. And again, Prendergast kind of coming out of nowhere, so he was potentially in the safety of the field, maybe sitting in a little bit more. So.
He also could have been in that group, that break of 6. That had the rain jacket on, and finally he took it off because we're getting down to hammer time. Rain, the puddles, we don't see any sprinkles on the puddles, and so, starting to be able to kind of get a little bit more serious about getting to the finish line. And so Prendergast right now in that chase group. So it'll be interesting to see if that's Henry Kuntz, number 33, sitting with Prendergast, trying to be able to bring back Otis Engel.
Now we got that shot from behind our 2 chase, so it'll be interesting to see if we can't see a little bit farther ahead to see what that gap is going to be up to Engel. Because I tell you what, once the 2 riders get him in sight, then the advantage really going to go to the chasers there if they can get him in sight, because they're just going to hunt him down. Absolutely. The Prendergast, a rider who's been around for a number of years. He's had some good rides at many of the road races here in the Northeast. The Bear Mountain Road Race. Of course, the Green Mountain Stage Race towards the Labor Day weekend that closes out the road season here on the East Coast. Had some great rides in the past. Actually, looks like he picked up a win at the Notchog Epic. So that's a big gravel race up in the Northeast, I think in Connecticut. Picking up the win earlier this year, and that obviously has to work in his favor a little bit. Not too dissimilar conditions to what he's seeing out here today in southern Washington County. It looked like the 2 chasers sharing a little bit of a drink there, so obviously those 2 are communicating and working together, and that's another thing that's just going to go a long way. That those 2, they're interested in keeping each other right now. Neither one wants to ditch the other rider right now and try and get across solo, so that's going to be very important that they continue to work together. So sharing a little bit of food, a little bit of drink, trying to make sure each other stays on top of their game as much as possible to contribute to this chase, because as these miles start to tick off, if they can't make that connection relatively soon,
they're going to probably start playing cat and mouse. Oh, look at this. Here comes the rain jacket. It's 2 riders from the Jameson squad. It looks like 2 riders now from the same team. So no wonder they're sharing a drink. These guys are actually teammates. So, man, now Otis Engel may well be in a little bit of trouble because there's no question that these guys are going to work together. If it was rival teams, Engel might be able to benefit a little bit from some cat and mouse antics the closer they get to the finish. But if it is indeed 2 riders from that same Jameis Racing team, they are going to be on the move to hunt down Otis Engel.
Maybe we get a number now that he's took off that rain jacket, be able to see who that is. But all the more impressive if they can't bring back Engel and 2 guys on the same team,
right?
One to sacrifice themselves for another. I mean, that's going to be that's even going to be more impressive if Otis Engel can pull this off. Again, it was a 25-second gap, and he's right there on the uphill. This is going to be close. This is going to come down to the nitty-gritty. Once they come in back a little bit more closer into town, it flattens out a little bit, which could be an advantage for the 2 Jameson riders. And so, still, a great bike race and a lot to be able to take place out there. Lead rider continued to be able to stay near the front as Otis Engel, the 20-year-old, holding about a 25-second lead. So our mystery rider we've been trying to be able to figure out has been told to us to be number 61, Adam Conley, and again along with 71, Chris Prendergast. And so R. Conley on that Jameson cycling team. So you were correct, Bill. The 2 white jerseys are the 2 teammates as these guys are working very well together. And maybe, Adam, what kind of legs is he going to have?
Yeah, he's obviously riding pretty strongly out there, and he's got a couple wins under his belt this year. Princeton University rider took up a win at the Bucknell Cycling Classic and took a win at Stage 2 of the Garden State Stage Race, which really, really hilly, hard stage race in New Jersey. So that explains his fondness here for this type of racing, the hilly roads. So obviously a very good road racer, very good climber. Also took a win just about 2 weeks ago at the Brinkerhoff Memorial Race, not too far down the road, a little bit south of Albany. So, obviously on a good run of form so far this year for that rider. 22 years old, so another youngster as well out there. So Hank Prendergast was 24.
I didn't see, but Prendergast is definitely going to be the more experienced of the riders here.
He's been around.
His name has been around for a while, and so a little bit of coaching with Adim, but it seems like Adim, the 22-year-old, definitely has a little bit better form, picking up those wins earlier this year, wanting to be able to get another one in Battenkill. It's not off of his radar. Definitely has the talent to be able to do it. The only problem is they got this young 20-year-old Otis Engel dangling out in front of him. Comes from a track background, turning to a road background, has ridden in Europe, has ridden, the junior Paris-Roubaix. He's done it all. So, Battenkill's not going to be that foreign to him. And, of course, any of these guys at this level, they've been training. They've been training outside. They're used to this kind of weather. They're used to these kind of conditions. And right now it really is a battle between some of these experienced riders coming in towards our finish. So unofficially waiting to be able to see how many miles we have left to go. As, we're thinking could be right around maybe 17 or maybe 15 miles to go as they continue to be able to march their way back in here to downtown Cambridge, New York.
Yeah, trying to get our look again on Otis Engel, still out there in the lead. Haven't seen him look back again as we try and pan that camera back to see where our chasers are. And you wonder, we were speculating about his pacing technique out there, and you wonder now if he had been going that 80-85% kind of that tempo or cruise control riding, he's got to be digging in now. He's got to be 90-95% kind of just under threshold because he knows, look, I've got 35 more minutes. I've got to make this happen. So he's digging in, and you kind of figure that has to be pretty accurate because otherwise that gap would have come down by now, and it really seems to be holding pretty steady at 30. So it's a bit of an interesting pursuit going on. 2 Jameson riders over
The other question, I wonder if he's getting this information. I wonder if he knows they're 20 seconds back, and I wonder if he knows they're 2 teammates.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't.
That's kind of critical to know that, hey, you got 2 riders on the same team are the ones chasing you down. So hopefully he's getting some time gaps, and if he wasn't, I'm sure he's yelling at somebody to let him know what kind of time gaps. Report over the radio, 14 miles to go. So 14 miles to go as they continue to be able to try to be able to get to the end of their 106-mile quest here. 6,700 feet of climbing. They took off at 1:15. Current time right now coming up on 5:08. So just in a little bit, we're going to be at about 4 hours of racing, and that's a pretty good clip to be able to get done with 106 miles. 14 miles to go as our riders continue to be able to make their way back in.
Yeah, that'll put us right around probably close to 4.5 hours for the race. So pretty stout effort out there for the day. So probably a shade under 25 miles an hour, which, nothing to sneeze at given the conditions out here today. It's been a little bit breezy earlier. Obviously, the off-road sections are very, very slippery, very heavy. So riders not cutting through there as fast as they would if it were dry conditions and all that was, and again, this race has kind of been blown apart. I mean, Engel's been solo for a while now, probably, 20 miles or so. He's been out there
I would agree.
Zone.
Yeah.
That's such a huge effort. So if he makes it into town on his own, he's going to have been solo for hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes, which that's a really tough way to win a bike race.
And so now that we're talking about, we see the two teammates chasing. Remember, that was with Satchel Kim. But no, my point is, originally Adam Aaron Conley is the one that took off. Is the one that took off. Remember the small one on the orange bike, and he kept going and going and going, and he had a little bit of a gap, and there was two riders chasing behind him, which was Satchel Kim and Engel that were trying to be able to bring back. Adam Prendergast, he must have been in that group of 6 a little bit further back to be able to come up a little bit later on, but Adam must have been feeling good because he was the first one to attack, to decide, hey, I'm not doing any more of this cooperation. I'm going to try to break this race apart, and now he finds him in chase mode because Otis was able to counterattack that.
Yeah, you almost wonder if that Adams earlier attacking was a setup move for Prendergast, and just Prendergast kind of missed the boat on that, but yeah, obviously, man, he's feeling super good today. As you see him back on the front there, the kind of that real compact style sitting on his bike there. With both riders making a big effort. You can see the laboring going on with Prendergast. He's definitely rocking a little more side to side with each pedal stroke. We obviously can't see their face to see, if that mouth is open, see if they're grimacing a little bit. That's always another great tell to see what the effort is or how long they might last out there. But these two riders still, what was that gap, about 35, 40 seconds yet to our lone leader, and the rest of the group, 4 minutes, it looked like, behind.
Yeah, the main field is way back.
They're out of it.
Adam's the one with that a little bit lower saddle position that he finds himself comfortable in riding in, and every rider is individual on how they feel on the bikes. I mean, people talk about different positions, but some people pedal toes down, heels down, and a little bit lower saddle. It's like, man, if you can go and you take advantage of it. And you talked about he's already got 3 wins, and right now he's going to be on the podium here at Battenkill. So something's going pretty good with him. And so this team, Jameson, obviously training together, working pretty good together right now as they go back onto the dirt roads. Again, a little bit under 14 miles to go, trying to be able to catch. One rider is in front of these two riders, which I think we're about to go up to right there. That's going to be Otis Engel. And again, Engel in that pink jersey, sitting about 25 seconds in front. I guess I can't time how fast the motorcycle goes across the gap, because that'll help anything.
Yeah, that's not going to be accurate. But yeah, these two riders, I wonder if there's been many stretches of road where they've actually been able to see the support vehicle that's up there behind Otis Engel, because to me that's going to be really key, especially as these miles are starting to kind of tick down. If they can't see that rider or that vehicle behind Engel, they're going to eventually maybe start to lose just a little bit of focus out there. Because if they can't see him,
you get out of sight, out of mind,
right.
And then you end up kind of. They know he's there, but if that carrot is there, dangling, you're going to be able to go a little bit harder to try to be able to get up to that main group. So leaders, and that's going to be, or to the leader, which is going to be the 20-year-old Otis Engel. Took off a long ways out, and so this is going to be a pretty impressive ride if he's able to stay away. Last year, we had the two riders that came in. They were together. They rode together the whole last however long whenever they got into the breakaway, so they actually had the help. I mean, it's that much harder to be able to do it by yourself, trying to be able to come in after, in a super cold day, a wet day, doing it by yourself, trying to be able to stay fueled, This is a tough ride. Now that I'm thinking about what team is Engel on, I'm going to look this up real quick here.
Yeah, it's some new UCI team on the scene, and
Le Meridian.
yes, Le Meridian. I think it's
Meridian Racing is
like the old Team California.
the team.
think.
Yes, there's a combination with that. Yeah, because I know Team California still does have their junior squad.
Right.
This is like the older squad that is part of that with La Meridian. And so I'm trying to look him up really quick here. I'm on the wrong thing that I'm getting distracted.
I think
Bill, you're distracting me.
that's what I'm good at. Apparently.
No, what I'm trying to be able to do is I need to get back to our start sheet. Does he have any teammates? That's all I want to know.
No. So he's here by himself.
That's all I was looking up to see if he's by himself.
So to me, him going early,
You got-
really a smart tactical move. Get ahead of the fireworks, right?
You got nothing to lose, and sometimes the best defense is going on the offense because now he doesn't have to worry about chasing anybody down.
Right, and he didn't have to worry about covering attack after attack from good guys, from Jameson, from R&R New York City. So yeah, get out ahead of it, and let kind of the shenanigans happen behind you and let it come up. So yeah, kind of a pretty smart move, I think, on Otis's part to play that game. And you spend a little energy being out there by yourself, but he's a strong, talented guy. He knows what he's good at, and I think a pretty smart game plan coming into this. Here's that countryside again.
Yep, great countryside, beautiful.
It is.
It is nice around here, especially when that sun was shining yesterday and driving in. It was very, very nice. I think right now our motorbike actually ended up going all the way in front of even our first vehicle, trying to be able to maybe get themselves in a pretty good position. Our pro women, they came in with a group of 7.
Yeah.
So a little bit larger group than I would have expected considering the course conditions and the way everything was. So that was kind of a little bit different, and obviously it's breaking up. Did you had a chance? You were over there doing podium with a lot of our pro women. Did you talk to any of them about how the race kind of played out?
Yeah. Excuse me. I talked to the second place finisher, Galen Ballard, and she said it was such a fun race, and she said that their competitive edge racing team really kind of just kept together.
On purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. They were interested in just bringing a group to the line. They figured they had safety in numbers, even though they were going up against, Megan Garnier, who a 3-time U.S. Professional road race champion here in the U.S. before she retired in 2019. But they were confident in numbers, so they decided to keep it together. And they had, I think they had 1 or 2 other riders in that group of 7. So they had 3-4 riders in that front group of 7. So they played their hand pretty well, I think.
Yeah, safety in numbers, and they got first and second, right?
Yeah, can't go wrong with that.
And you were correct that Megan did win the overall for the Giro. She came
Every now and then I'm right.
She came over to say hi to her, so I was talking to her, and so I asked her about it. She said she also won a stage or 2, but
there you go.
The more impressive is that she won the overall of the Giro. There's your leader going through in that pink jersey. That's going to be Engel as he makes his way through. And now, I should have started the timer. Going to have to hurry up and do that real quick. Let's try and do this. Doom and start.
So 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 5 extra seconds. And last time it was sitting at about 25 seconds, maybe 30. So now we're going to see when these 2 riders come up, and they got the top of the hill right there. So
could be coming down.
I'm thinking it's holding steady. I think it's the same. I mean, granted, let's say within 5 seconds, right? Because we're going to be at 20. I started late, so let's say it's at 25. So nothing's changed.
No, it's status quo, which is great if your name is Otis Engel.
I was about to say, who does that play favor to?
Yeah, I mean, 100% to Otis, right? Because I think, it's not like the 2 Jameson riders are like, okay, he's right there. We're going to learn.
Well, especially not with 10 miles to go.
Right, not with 10 miles to go and not with a 25-second gap. If it was a 5-second gap, they might say, hey, let him dangle and kind of do the bum rush at the very end. But, at this stage of the game, the Jameson riders, they're all in 100%. So the fact that they're literally not making a dent in that gap kind of speaks volumes to how strong Engel is riding on the front right now.
And every time there's a little bit of a downhill, that's definitely not going to be catching on that part. They're going to catch them on the uphills or on the flat sections. Because the downhills, Ingle can go, let's just call it 30 miles an hour. The two are going to go 30 miles an hour. You're not going to go that much faster. You don't make up ground on a downhill. You make ground up on the uphill or the flats. And so, yeah, sitting at 25 seconds. And again, hopefully these two don't get like, oh, we waited a little bit too long, or we thought we were going to get them later on, because I would be going flat out right now to try to chip that back. Because if you can get it within 10 seconds and then Ingle sees you, he might just sit up. He might just be like, all right, I'm done. And so you might save yourself a ton of energy just kind of wiping out the final 10 seconds, not even have to bring it back, because Ingle's going to realize, all right, I'm getting reeled back in. So realistically, these guys only need to do is bring back 10 seconds semi-quickly, and then you're going to have a chance at trying to be able to go for victory. But granted, I'm sitting here in a chair underneath an umbrella. They've been out there. They've been eating. I understand it's hard and it's very easy to be able to say what to do. So, phenomenal ride the Jameson riders are doing, but they're going to need to be able to put their legs together in order to be able to bring back Ingle.
Yeah, I kind of keep waiting for them to ride side by side for a second and turn their heads toward each other, kind of indicative of having a little bit of a conversation. Because again, I think at this point, one of them is going to have to sacrifice for the other, right? It's not let's get to the line together. It's like one of us on this team has to win this bike race, and somebody's gonna have to take it on the chin, and it's they have to have that conversation of who's going to just say, look, I'm going to go to the front, and I've got 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just full gas, and I'm going to do what I can, and kind of not seeing too many indications of that conversation. And the longer that goes unspoken, I think is again, it's going to be a strike against them.
Well, hitting down one of the uphills right now as these two guys spread out side by side. And again, if you're feeling good, this is where you'll be able to make back some time. But, tough race conditions as they continue to be able to chip away at the kilometers and make their way back in here towards our finish line.
Well, Otis has to be, pardon me. Otis has to be feeling pretty good about this situation right now. He's still got plenty in his tank. Oh, look at this. Here's.
They see him.
Man.
The carrot is there, and Otis is suffering now.
Bobbing, right, left. His shoulders are rocking on this big climb. So this could be the beginning of the end for Otis Engle, who's had put on such a dominant display, but it might all come unglued here.
Otis almost looks like he's going side to side.
Oh,
and so that was a big difference in body language than what we saw. And obviously, this was a steeper climb. And always on a climb, it looks like it's closer than what it is. And so once we come over the top, we'll get a better idea. But, wow, what a difference there as these guys, they see him right in front of them. And granted, it's on a climb, so it's going to be a little bit tougher to be able to bring back as we're waiting for Ingle to be able to make his way forward.
Oh, look at that. Engle he's doing everything he can right now. And I hope he doesn't look back, because, there's a look back. And that's going to get into his head a little bit. So that's the problem. This is going to eat into his psyche. He's been riding so well. And now he sees these two chasers gaining ground. You can see that hill. It's going to continue for a little bit yet. So he's got some time before he gets over the top. And with every pedal stroke, it seems like he's losing a little bit of real estate on this climb.
I'm coming up on, this is going to be an exact, so I'm going to give it 20 seconds.
So he's eating 5 seconds.
The Chasers have brought back about 5 seconds on that climb. Prendergast looks like they're a little bit motivated, trying to be able to keep Arciani on the wheel. And it's going to be interesting right now. And again, if they get it a little bit closer, again, Otis is going to sit up because he's not going to just keep pounding his head into the pavement, try to be able to stay away. But as long as it's on the climb and he has a gap, he knows it's going to be much harder for these guys in the back.
And Engle, again, we've talked about his track background. He's actually a very good sprinter, right? So it might actually be in his best interest to sit up now.
That's a great point.
Be able to recover and know that, the only problem with that is if he, the farther out he gets caught, he might, get 1-2 a bit before the finish and start to have to cover a bunch of attacks. That's the only downside to that potential maneuver. But, if he could save a little bit for that sprint finish, he still might be able to salvage this.
Well, the two chasers, they definitely had to put in a big effort, so I'm not sure how good their legs are going to be. But, yeah, if they get caught and you have two Jamesons, Engle doesn't aim to pull. He could just sit on them, and if somebody tries to go, he has to react to it immediately. And that could be challenging. And so Now they're coming over the top of the climb. This is where we're going to get a better idea of what the gap is, as Ingle's already on that downhill, being able to pick up a little bit of speed. And then our two chasers, again, Adam out of Conley and Chris Pendergast, trying to be able to bring back our sole leader.
Hard to believe this race is going to come down to the final miles here. Our last check was, 14 miles or
Well, that was a little ways ago, right?
Yeah, it was exactly. So
we got to be under 10.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to be at, like, I'm going to say 8 miles maybe. So, judging by time, we figured they were going to be in around maybe 5:40, 5:45. So, they're about 20 minutes or so out from the finish. So, yeah, 9 miles is what we're guesstimating yet to go. And it's going to come down to a very, very tough nail-biter of a finish. And there's still some elevation to gain. There's still some more little climbs that Engel is going to have to go up, as you see him now, getting as low as he can down this descent, trying to hold it off. So, yeah, all signs are pointing that he's not going to sit up. He's not going to give in. He's going to try and run this one. So maybe he's got a little kick in the pants there by knowing how close they were getting, and he's going to try and rally as we see our chasers now. I'll tell you what, that gap continuing to drop. That's
it's a shorter gap,
right?
For
15 seconds would be my gamble.
I would agree with that. And then behind, again, a while ago, the field was like at 3 minutes and 20. There's some other stragglers behind also, but the main race is right now up here. It's like it's not coming from behind, so it's going to be, can the two riders catch our leader? And again, the two riders on the same team, Jamison Racing, with those white jerseys, as they continue to be able to work together. Did we figure out how old Prendergast is?
I want to say
because I went on something and I didn't find it. I know Adam, which is the smaller rider on Jamison, is 22 years old. Prendergast, both of us, we've known him for a while, so we know he's definitely going to be older than the 20-year-old or the 22-year-old, because he's been racing for a little bit longer. It's a known name as these two guys continue to be able to chase down Otis Engel. Yeah, the track sprinting, previous national champion Otis Engel in that pink jersey, that should come in handy for him if he does get caught.
Murphy's Law. You said it out loud. You're right.
Yeah, I'm actually not finding. I thought I had seen 24, but I'm not finding an age for gas.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up here.
See if
I can figure this out.
It's very muddy everywhere. Our shoes.
But yeah, he's a name that I believe he's a Canadian rider. I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's a Canadian rider who's been around for a couple of years, probably 4 or 5 years.
So Canadian, 31 years old.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, he's been around for a few years. There we go. All right, 24.
Oh, geez.
Man. All right. Yeah. There goes our math at the finish line. So 31, so, yeah, veteran.
Yeah, I knew it. He's been around for a while, definitely. It's his third year on Jamison. And, yeah, very, very strong rider.
Oh, we just got word, so the catch has been made. So the two Jamison riders have now caught Otis Engel. So just like that, under 10 miles to go, we've got a whole new bike race. We've got 3 riders in the lead, 2 riders from Jamison, and then the one lone wolf on that
Otis Engel.
Meridian Pro team, Otis Engel. So what a change.
And that's what I was talking about. When it gets down to 5 seconds, 10 seconds, your leader just sits up. So you only have to do half the chasing, because once it gets close, the guy realizes, like, oh, I'm not going to keep beating my head going 90%. And so now you're going to see Jamison starting to attack each other. What will end up happening, though, is, it seems like Adam is feeling pretty darn strong. And so maybe there's got to be a little bit of decision. And they are definitely counterattacking one after another right now. And they didn't give any chance for Otis to even try to recover right now.
Smart play, right?
No, exactly. That's Prendergast.
Yeah.
So Adam went first, and Otis responded to that. And honestly, I think Adam is actually stronger than Prendergast.
Agreed.
But Prendergast now is going, and look at him, he's bobbing all over and looking up and down. And now Adam has just gone. So the two Jamison riders have just dispatched the young 20-year-old Otis Engel. He gambled. He laid it all on the line to go for victory. And in this case, it's not going to work out as Jamison going up the road.
Amazing ride by the Jamison riders. Just when we thought that they might have acted a little too little, a little too late. They've really turned this one upside down immediately with the counterattack, first by Ara Conley. And Prendergast now off the front. His teammate Ara Conley also dispatching Engel on one of these climbs. So I suspect that they're going to link up and get right back into that kind of quasi-team time trial formation.
Getting problems with our camera right now, so not sure we're going to want to. Oh, there we go. I think we got it back now. Here, fix the screen there for me.
I'm on it.
Prendergast should wait. Sit up, wait for the other one. Now they're looking over each shoulder, so they've connected. The two leaders have now joined forces. So a swapping of positions, right?
Yeah.
We had two chasing one. Now we have one chasing two. These are the two leaders. And then I don't think they even need to worry about Otis Engel because he is going to be gone. Question mark for me, can Otis Engel hang on to third?
Yeah, I think he can hang on.
I think he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hurting.
He's hurting.
Our last gap was like 3.5 or 4 minutes.
But again, that was to the main field. Remember, there was 6 riders. There's riders in between.
True.
And remember Prendergast. He came from somewhere.
Yeah, he came from
So
one of
there's going to be some other guys
scattered.
who are going to be coming from somewhere that are scattered. And so when you're that dead, you end up going slower and slower. And just think of the headspace. Like you're just devastated that you got caught trying to almost be able to win. And so hopefully Otis can get onto the podium. But I think it's going to be a little hit or miss to see what happens here.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, hopefully he gets up to the top of this climb that they've really worked him over on, because I think if he can reset over the top of this climb, he's got a shot. But yeah, I think you might be right. It could very well be lights out for Engel.
I mean, touch and go.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea who's behind Otis and how far back some of these other riders are. So I'm just saying, when you're dead, you're dead.
Right, you can't come back.
And he's not coming back to the leaders. I'm hopefully, he can hang on to third place, which would be, for 20 years old here in Battenkill on a tough, fantastic podium ride.
Absolutely.
So,
but right now, it's all about the Jameson riders out of New York City, really working their the numbers to their favor. And Adem Ara Conley and Chris Prendergast putting on a bit of a clinic out here right now, and they've got to be pretty happy. Look at Prendergast. They're all in right now. These guys are they're going harder than when they were chasing. You can just tell by the body language of Prendergast. He's really leaning in to every pedal stroke there, and you can almost see that mouth open, just trying to get as much oxygen in the lungs as he can, as these two riders are now, they're probably inside of about 15 minutes or so from getting themselves back into Cambridge here to wrap up the 20th edition. Amazing, the 20th edition of the Battenkill, Queen of the Classics. And what a day, what a celebration it could well be for our crew from Jameson.
How did they work this out at the finish?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? I mean, I think you sprint it out, right? I mean, nobody wants to give a win away. I mean, Prendergast, obviously, he's the veteran. He's been with the team a couple of years, and he's certainly won his share of races. Adem has won 3 races so far this year. We know he's on good form, but do you kind of give away a race of this nature?
A classic.
Right. Do you give it away? That's a tough one. You never know when that opportunity is going to come up again.
Riders right now making their way back in towards Cambridge, New York. They've done their loops. We had 3 starter loops. They went out and did a big loop, and now they're making their way back in towards our finish line. Should be maybe about 15 more minutes, if they're continuing to be able to creep back in.
Yeah, I would say 10, 15 minutes at the most. I think they're probably about 4 or 5 miles yet to go. As we just saw Ara Conley taking a look back over his shoulder, so still a little bit nervous there in the front. So, again, we're not entirely sure what the scenario is with the chase group. We suspect Otis Engel maybe just kind of really hitting the wall out there and blowing a bit sky high. Unfortunately for that young man, because he put on such a good ride, and he was out there for literally about an hour on his own. And at the end of the day, probably the smart tactical play to get out there, get ahead of the fireworks, and play his hand. But unfortunately, it might be one hill too many for Engel, as he got caught and very quickly attacked and counterattacked, and now is finding himself on the back foot.
But I said to him, the pros are coming, and I would really feel better if you would be on the sidewalk. And he said, I would feel better if this wasn't here.
Oh, I see. We get the cops over here.
He wouldn't listen to me. I tried talking to him earlier. the road.
I will go. We will finish when you come one. How far are you guys?
Nice shot of our neutral service. They got about 4 cars, about 3 or 4 motorcycles as well, with wheels and equipment for all of these riders that are out there in case they have any kind of problems.
We are 6 miles out.
So about 6 miles from the finish, so about 10 kilometers or so, 6 miles from the finish. So it's just starting to get into the outskirts area here of Cambridge. So that tells us, yeah, probably about 15 more minutes if they're 6 miles out. So these two still, look at how far up on the saddle Prendergast is. He's, riding on the tip of the saddle there. So still really putting everything into it. And it'd be interesting to see what the scenario is behind. You have to wonder if there's a chase coming.
All right, getting reported our lead 10K out. That's how big a gap it is. It's got a pretty good gap. And you can see the flatter. We talked about the flatter sections of road as they're making their way back in. Once again, Adam Conley. He's the rider right there on that orange bike riding on the front, number 61. Number 71, Chris Prendergast. That's one rider in second position with the yellow bike as they're getting ready to be able to head back in. So reports are about 4K out for our leaders. And by the amount of time that I was just talking, probably down to about 3K. 2 leaders. Question is, Otis Single in that pink jersey, can he hang on for third place? He had gone solo, had been away by himself for about 25 miles as we're waiting for our leaders down to be able to come around that final turn and be able to make their way in. Still a little bit of ways out as they're going to have to figure out who will win from Jamison. The internal battle begins as they continue to be able to chop away coming in towards our finish. Rain stopped, Bill.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the day, right? Rained all day.
Yeah,
No,
right, exactly.
The first hour, no rain. Then we rained all day long for all of the race categories. Then now we're at the finish, and now we have no rain. So it'll be a little bit easier for all of our people that have to do cleanup, which of course is a good thing because.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep. And all this stuff being all wet, packing stuff, wet stuff.
Yeah, packing it up. It's such a hard thing. The crew here at Anthem Sports in Battenkill, they do a wonderful job. So many hands to make this race a reality up here, and we're thankful for all of them year in and year out. And some of the same folks for every single edition the last 20 years. My voice is fucked. My voice is shot.
Getting reports Ben Light, Total Civil Construction is attacking out of the main group as they're trying to be able to make their way back up.
He got caught. He was countered and dropped. Yeah, so we don't even know if he's still in third. So it's the two Jamison guys. They keep taking little looks back, but we don't know what's behind them. Yeah, that's why we were just looking up.
Look at the equipment. It is just covered, destroyed. Definitely going to need a pressure washer to be able to kind of clean some of the clothing. This is the type of thing where you just take your whole body into the shower with the jerseys and everything on, and riders trying to be able to clean themselves off. A little bit of a conversation maybe going on. Again, Prendergast is the rider on the front, and Aaron Conley is the rider sitting in second. And you got that coming in. Aaron Conley already with 3 victories this year in 2026. That's him right there. Nice shot right there, trying to keeping it going. Prendergast with a little bit bigger gear, a little bit very different riding positions and very bit different riding style as these two guys coming in. You can see passing one of the large cemeteries right on the outskirts of town as they are inching their way in. So in a minute, they're getting ready for that final right-hand turn. And that's going to be coming in towards our finish. Here comes one of our lead motor vehicles coming in. And that means they're going to be our leaders are going to be just behind them in just a second. About 150 meters once they come around that turn. That's why with all of our other races, you can see top 2, top 3, they come around the turn. You just start sprinting immediately because it is such a short stretch to the finish line. Nice shot of our lead vehicles doing a fantastic job with our moving caravan side by side. How do they play this? How do they battle it out? Do they come across hand in hand, or will challenge for the win as they're coming in right now, celebrating at the line. Prendergast on the front, and so that is the decision as Prendergast picks up the victory. Jameson going 1-2, planning it out and playing it out perfectly to be able to come across the line. Now, where's Otis Engel? That's what we're waiting to be able to see. A great job. Again, the 31-year-old Chris Prendergast picking up the victory here. Adam Aaron Conley with 3 victories already. 22-year-old put himself on the podium sitting in the second position. We got our volunteers down from Anthem Sports at the finish line because everybody's wearing rain jackets and their numbers are covered in mud, so trying to be able to figure out whose name and whose number goes with each other. Hey, I'd like to be able to say also from Gnarly Monkey, a fantastic job with all the live web stream, being out there in the rain with all of this. It was fantastic coverage as waiting right now to see third place coming around the corner. The question is, who will it be? Podium. That's what counts for this rider. 20 years old. He attacked with about solo for about 25 miles. Got caught just at the end. Coming in with third place, Otis Engel with a fantastic ride. So 1, 2, and 3, and now I believe we got our riders coming in. It's going to be our next group coming in right now as they're taking their time crossing the street. They're not too concerned with anything. So there's going to be fourth place to be able to make his way in. So that's going to be fourth place for Eric Harrington as more riders making their way in. Coming across the line just a minute ago, number 9, that's going to be Theodore Kincaid. These are the survivors. These are the tough men of Battenkill with an excellent job out here. Right with Rendell, another rider coming in. Look at his face. He's just covered in mud. That's going to be one he's going to remember for Patrick Frank. Big group right now coming around that final turn as well. So this is the remnants of the main field as everything was demolished out there. And look at these guys as they get covered. They are chalked with mud, coated with mud. What a tough ride. What a tough competition.
For Otis Engel. Riding for Jameson Racing Team, putting an incredible ride is going to be a silver medal for Adam Aaron Conley. He's been here at Battenkill before, and now this time the very top step. Please welcome the veteran, your 2026 Battenkill champion, Christopher Prendergast.
Get those old hits up there.
Oh, yeah. Nice job. Nice racing, guys. Thank you.
Arms up in the air. Here's your champions once again. As Dieter Drake, your race promoter, passing out the top of the hill. Prendergast, Aaron Conley, and Engel. It's 1, 2, and 3 here in Battenkill.
Oh, loved it. Celebrating the 21st edition of the Battenkill, once again in memory of our motor director from last year, Dave Percy, a big part of Battenkill in the community. As America's Queen of the Classics put on by Anthem Sports, and Dieter Drake doing a fantastic job. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the surprise live web stream as Battenkill for 2026 is done and dusted, as they say. My name's Frankie Andreu for Bill Elliston, for Gnarly Monkey, who provided all the live web stream. Enjoy these final images. Enjoy the day, and we look forward to seeing you next year.